is what heroes are made of. This right here is what heroes are made of. This right here, yeah, this right here, yeah, this right here is what heroes are made of. Picking up the phone already, know who calling. Ain't no testing me, my destiny's to be a baller. I've been going harder, death before dishonor, ain't no other order. Always knew I'd make it from the trenches up to be a starter. I'm an all-star starer, shot caller. Take a look at the glow, bright glow, you see the aura. Look how far they took it, you should know we going farther. Be a legend today, it's all over, we just started. If you can believe it, you can achieve the highs, you know. There's nothing to be afraid of. If you can believe, you won't ever let them tell you no. This right here, yeah, this right here is what heroes are made of. What heroes are made of. This right here is what heroes are made of. Right here is what heroes are made of. Yeah, this right here is what heroes are made of.
General Tire was born more than 100 years ago, right here in America. We've spent the last century tackling every kind of road this country has to offer, and especially the places without roads. So you know that with General Tire, anywhere is possible.
sun is so bad.
I fully agree. The glare right now is insane.
You know, maybe we do like at like a sunset.
Sunset
duel. Yes.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
It'll be so purple out until the blood runs through the streets.
It ain't just a bourbon, it's a damn fistful.
Side recording, this is for the win. Still far abreast into the braking zone. This is sensational racing. And getting ready to cross. He goes around the outside, but it's not enough.
We're away by it all.
Round 2. Hollander's gonna come back at him. It's gonna be a race to the line. Does he have enough?
The road through the 2022 Jim Beaver Esports Triple Crown starts tonight, where from iRacing's virtual Bark River International Raceway, we say hello race fans and welcome to the General Tire eShort Course World Cup, fueled by Fistful of Bourbon. Well, as always, we're happy that you have your with us for some exciting eShort course action here on the iRacing servers. Tonight, we start the third annual of these eShort course World Cup events, and so happy that you're spending your time with us here tonight. Alongside myself, Evan Pasoko, happy to be joined in the broadcast booth, as always, by Jim Beaver. Also excited to have Ralph Shaheen in the booth with us tonight. And Jim, will bounce back to you first on this. Just talking to pre-show tonight, the third year of this World Cup. It feels like it's been a whirlwind since we saw Cam Peterson dominate this event first back in 2020. And this event continues to bring out the stars. We should have a great night of virtual Pro 2 and Pro 4 truck racing tonight.
Yeah, I'm really excited about tonight. You know, third year running, this event started getting some traction back in 2020 when we were all sitting at home, and it's continued to grow and expand, bring in some amazing celebrity and crossover drivers to compete against some of the best sim racers and eShort course drivers in the world. Tonight, not going to disappoint. You know, really, really excited about some of the crossover drivers we've got here, some new faces that we've never seen short course or our World Cup, and we've got some of the best in the business and sim racing world to coming back once again competing for the World Cup crown. So definitely laying the stage for an epic night of racing.
When talking about crossovers, Ralph, I mean, you've probably called just about everything there is in motorsports, but I don't think sim racing was necessarily on your docket, so I know this is going to be something new for you, and there's going to be a lot of those real-world pros as well that have been learning this sim thing as well, so we're super excited to have you on the call with us tonight.
Well, you know, Evan, there was a time I never thought I would do swamp buggies either, and I did, so I'm really looking forward to this because as far as short course off-road sim racing is concerned, this is the event, the biggest in the world. Really looking forward to being a part of the team.
The heavy hitters are here tonight. We're going to be watching for entertainment. They're going to be taking this one seriously with cash and prizes on the line. Of course, it's going to be a double dose of action. Tonight's coverage will start with Pro 2 racing here at the virtual Bark River International Raceway located in Bark River, Michigan. Later, we'll soup them on up to the Pro 4 trucks. We'll go racing at Crandon International Off-Road Raceway, the site of many exciting events in the virtual eShort course world in the past. But, you know, this is a point that we always touch on, Jim, right? The real drivers versus the virtual drivers. And maybe back in 2020, I think those real-world pros had an excuse, right? Oh, the sim guys have had more sim time than us, right? I'm not that well acclimated to this. By this point, a lot of the guys who we would put in that real-world pro category are pretty regulars on the sim as well. And I think that that gap is closed a lot more, and it's going to be very competitive looking at those two groups.
Yeah, and I think that's what, that's funny because a lot of, these real world pros, they never owned a sim rig until 2020 when the pandemic hit. They got them. And, here we go 2 years later. And some of these guys have become really fast and some of them competing, for world championships and some of the top crowns in their respective disciplines. I think that's one thing great about the World Cup a couple years ago. It was something new. It was a novel idea, to have these real world pros race against sim racers. Now lines are blurred, and I got to tell you, man, it's really tough to tell who's a sim pro and who's a real world pro at this point.
Yeah, this community certainly continues to grow and grow. And obviously the biggest aspect here is, these are laser scanned, replicas down to a quarter of an inch of accuracy for these stadium trucks. Same with the tracks as well. We're going to see this dirt wear in as the race goes on. But certainly, Ralph, you can't deny that these drivers are much more comfortable sitting in their sim rig at home than they were if they were actually in one of these stadium trucks. I think the biggest thing we're going to be looking at tonight, though, is the fact that this is a fixed setup race on iRacing, and that means that every single truck in the field is set up identically. This guy doesn't have anything different than that gal over there. It's a completely even playing field. So at the end of the day, the only thing that is, going to make a difference tonight is the driver. So these guys are going to have very minimal excuses if they get their butt kicked tonight. So certainly there's a lot of onus on the sim pros. They don't want to get showed up by a real life pro, and all these guys who, have raced in real kinds of motorsports for decades on end. They don't want to let the sim guys beat up on them either. So there's a lot of pride on the line tonight. We mentioned the prizes and money. We'll talk about that more later, but I love the fixed setup aspect of this World Cup event because it is 100% an even playing field.
Yeah, we're going to find out who can really wheel it here. As you said, with that fixed setup, it all just comes down to who can get their elbows up and outdrive the other one.
And the good thing about this opener, of course, we mentioned exciting events still to come a little bit later on this year as the Triple Crown rolls on into our third year of eShort course racing here on iRacing. The fact as well is, you're going to be earning points tonight, right? We'll talk about that as we get through the heats and qualifying and all of that. But, I think everybody here tonight going to have an opportunity to race in a feature. So there isn't that immediate pressure of somebody getting bumped out right away, not qualifying in based on queue times, not making it through a heat race. Everyone's going to have an equal opportunity to get to a feature race later on this afternoon, and that's also going to be critical. The other big storyline, Jim, of course, the difference between these Pro 2 trucks that we'll see up first and the Pro 4 trucks later on tonight. They both clock in at about 700 to 900 horsepower. Obviously, the Pro 2 trucks are the two-wheel drive. The Pro 4s are four-wheel drive. Those Pro 4s can be a little bit longer in the wheelbase as well, but from a driver's perspective, compare the Pro 2s versus the Pro 4s, and how do you have to attack these races differently?
Well, I think the biggest thing is with the fours, you've got a lot of horsepower, but you've got that all-wheel drive to back you up. You can really back it into the corners, throw the truck around, know there's going to be traction there, and you can pull yourself out of some really sticky situations. The Pro 2, same horsepower, but now you only have two wheels in the rear, much like a drift car. There's a finesse to this. You really have to dance your way around the track, and if you get into trouble, it's a whole lot harder to correct it and bring the truck back. And I think that's one of the glorious things about the Cup's the only sim racing event in the world that forces these drivers to be good at both disciplines. So at the end of the night, you may have guys that are good in a Pro 2, good in a Pro, but with this event, you're going to find out who's the best, who can drive anything, and that's what the World Cup's all about.
We're excited to get tonight's action underway. We'll step aside for just a moment to reset some things on the technical side. Trucks are on the grid and we're getting set to go racing. So we'll step aside for just a moment. When we come back, we go green flag racing. You're watching the General Tire eShort Course World Cup, fueled by Fistful.
stones will never change. I'll build so straight and blind. The more we learn, the less we lose. We can run to the streets, defeat the enemies. We can drown the sea with freedom voices. If there was a dream, we could have faces. We need them now earthquake. My heart skipped a beat. Why they still bury their guilt and never feel sated. Walking off the
From iRacing's virtual Bark River International Raceway, let's get underway for the opening race of this 2022 General Tire eShort Course World Cup, fueled by Fistful of Bourbon. We're happy to have you with us, as always, for another year of eShort Course action here on iRacing. We're alongside myself, Evan Pasoko. Happy to be joined, as always, by Jim Beaver in the broadcast booth tonight. Ralph Shaheen also joining us. We'll also go down to our pit reporter, Tiffany Stone, in just a little bit. But, Jim, Pro 2's up first at a tricky challenge in Bark River.
Yeah, Pro 2's up first. The tougher of the two disciplines. Pro 2 definitely takes a little bit of finesse rather than the Pro 4s. But we're back here, third consecutive year for the eShort Course World Cup. Very, very excited to be back here. Bark River throwing something a little bit different at these drivers this weekend. Long track that get to test their skills in various different ways. Really excited about tonight's racing. Excited, to have Ralph Shaheen and Tiffany back along with you and I. And man, let's go racing.
It should have been exciting to win a Ralph. Of course, this is a virtual race, so we were joking pre-race. The good news is, if these guys wreck out of this one, they don't really care. You're not going to get hurt by it. Your wallet's not going to hurt either. Not that, stadium truck racing on its own isn't already physical enough, but I feel like that barrier, right? That distance between these competitors means that in this virtual world, these guys might really get their elbows up, as you were talking about earlier, and get physical in some of these races.
Well, if you're going to, this is the one to do it for, right? This is the World Cup. This is the big one. You want to get those elbows nice and sharp and ready to go. You can easily lean on each other, drive it in a little bit deeper, take a little bit more risk, because the risk reward definitely favors you here today. But you need to score those points too.
And points are going to be critical. That's how you're going to win this World Cup when it is all said and done. Points have already been awarded earlier tonight in the qualifying session. Points were handed out to the top 5 drivers in that single truck qualifying session. And that is also how the grid will be set for these heat races. The likes of Josh Edmondson, Keaton Swain, Connor Berry, Cam Peterson, Luke Cadup were the top 5. They'll all walk away with 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2 points respectively. Points are going to be available all night long. We'll give out points to the heat racers, 25 for a heat race win, all the way down through the top 10. But the big money is in that final. Now, all the drivers, as you mentioned earlier, will qualify for that feature race later on this afternoon. But of course, your grid position is going to be the most important part. 50 points to an overall event winner here tonight. So as we get set The 2022 eShort course calendar kicks off right now from iRacing's virtual Bark River International Raceway. We see hello race fans and welcome to the 2022 General Tire eShort Course World Cup, fueled by Fistful of Bourbon. And happy that you're with us, as always, here on iRacing Live, alongside of myself, Evan Pizzoco. Happy to be joined by Jim Beaver and Ralph Shaheen in the broadcast booth. Our pit reporter, Tiffany Stone, is downstairs, and we'll check in with her in just a little bit. But Jim, year 3 of this eShort course racing here in the virtual world on the iRacing sim platform, and it is set to be another exciting one. The World Cup, it's always the biggest way to kick it off, and a thrilling night of virtual Pro 2 and Pro 4 action is coming right up.
Yeah, you know, back here for year 3, this event continues to get bigger and better every single year. We got a star-studded cast of characters set to go racing in the virtual world. 2 races tonight, both Pro 2, Pro 4, a bunch of heat races thrown in. You know, we're going to do the dance tonight, and we're going to find out who's the best in the business here in the World Cup.
Going to be a lot of crossover drivers in the field tonight, and I guess, Ralph, we can throw you into that category, right, as well. I mean, you've called basically everything there is to do in motorsports, and now we can add sim racing to that docket. I mean, virtual stadium truck racing here on the iRacing platform. We're thrilled to have you.
Well, thank you. I'm really looking forward to being here, Evan. I know how big sim racing is. I know this is the biggest event in sim racing when it comes to off-road short course racing, and I can't wait to watch these drivers battle for the win.
It'd be a long, hard-fought night as we race through the Pro 2 heats and into the feature, then into the second half of the program where we head over to Crandon and race in those four-wheel drive Pro 4 stadium trucks. But we're going to be earning points as we go through tonight's coverage. That is going to be the end objective if you want to win this World Cup when it's all said and done. Qualifying has already taken place. The field has been split into 2 different heat races. Now, all the drivers at all of these heats will advance into the Pro 2 feature. This is simply for qualified position. It's important to note that the top 8 drivers have been inverted based on their actual qualifying times. So the best qualifier in this race is actually Josh Edmondson. He dominated this event back in 2020. He starts at 8th spot, and that means that Josh Balicki will be on pole position. The NASCAR Cup Series driver out of Richfield, Wisconsin, is on the front row, side by side with the 16 truck of Dave Bodio. 10 minutes or 20 laps as we get set for heat race number 1 in the Pro 2 trucks, looking for the big green egg coming to green, and already they are all over each other. 3 wide for the race lead, but it's Balicki, maybe Jim's slight advantage. Now he sees a challenge. That's Crystal King looking to the inside.
Yeah, and we got to give a shout out there to Crystal King, you know, one of the only female drivers in the field. She earned her way in on merit. You know, she's been top sim racer in the eShort course space for quite some time. Really excited to have her here racing with us tonight.
There was somebody way off track, Ralph. I saw Plumley in the back jump one of the K-rails that end up off into the grass. I mean, we talked about the virtual versus real aspects, and maybe I think a bit of virtual courage for these drivers. I mean, they were really aggressive on the start of this race. I mean, look at this, a 3-way fight for third. Bodio the advantage. Connor Parise is in there. Connor Berry as well. Those are a lot of the sim names in the battle for third on back.
Yeah, Connor Berry doing a good job in that 28 truck right now. And you talk about all this stuff that's virtual about this. One thing that's not, especially in the opening lap, is the adrenaline. The adrenaline is for real. And right now, I'm sure it's pumping really heavy in everybody competing here as we ride on board with Crystal King in her 278.
Yeah, she was doing a real good job, but it's going to get roughed out of the way there. That was Connor Parise, who basically just bullied her out of the way. Connor Berry also passes. Bodio's through. Knupp is through. Reynolds is through. And King will drop from 2nd to 7th in the blink of an eye. Now she'll fight back up and on the inside. This is a very short heat, Jim, and I know, yes, all these cars are going to go to the feature, but you really need to qualify well if you want to be in contention for 50 points in the Pro 2 main event. And look how aggressive the trucks are here mid-pack. What this is doing, though, is allowing those leaders, Balicki and now Parise up front, to pull away, but one truck around in front of everybody, and that was a major, major issue back in traffic for Josh Balicki. He led the first lap of this race, but that 177 got turned around, and he was a roadblock for this mid-pack.
Yeah, you saw trucks darting every which way. Truck spun around, and looks like he's going to regain back on course. He had a great run going, though. Tough break for Bilicki, moving all the way back. Looks like to 9th place. Allows Parise to take the lead here early on. So we are about 2.5 minutes in, and Parise out front.
Tough break for him. And when we talk about the real-world pros, they aren't just pros from the off-road world. Again, I mean, Bilicki, a NASCAR driver, was confirming Ralph with our race control earlier today. What's the restart procedure? Since I'm on pole, right? I've never done an eShort course race. I've never raced at a stadium truck, and look out, up and over. It's Crystal King, who barrel rolls out of frame. Anthony Alfredo can't help but crack a smile a little bit. He'll pick up some spots as well. Anthony Alfredo competed most recently in the NASCAR Cup Series in 2021, now back down in the Xfinity Series, and he looks like he's having the time of his life right now.
Well, it's a little bit of I've got it, I don't got it going on right now. You can tell from how much he's working the wheel and how big the smile is.
He's really chatty as well, Jim. I mean, in a real truck, can you be this chatty? I mean, you can't really hear much, right? It looks like that he's definitely enjoying himself, but that's kind of the different thing, right? Some drivers are going to be super chatty on the radio. A lot of them are going to have their buddies, fellow competitors, right, in a voice chat or, some sort of call with them. And, I mean, he looks like he's super chatty, and he's in quite the aggressive fight right now. I wonder if he's chatting there with Blake Reynolds, who's putting the bumper to him. Reynolds in the 66, going to make a pass on through. 2019 eNASCAR Championship 4 competitor gets the best of Alfredo there. And as we look further up the road, this is the fight for second. Parise has slipped out of the race lead, and a familiar face is driving through the field in the Fistful of Bourbon 58. Josh Edmondson is up to second.
Yeah, Edmondson, he's one of the top eShort course drivers in the world. Him and Cam Peterson, arguably the top two, and he's definitely one to watch throughout this entire World Cup. I think he's got a real shot at taking the overall victory at the end of the night. So definitely a guy to keep an eye on as we take a look at the number 11 of Parise. Here's another renaissance man when it comes to iRacing. I know he's qualified in for the IRX World Championship. Obviously, he's one of the top eShort course guys. Definitely Parise's got what it takes to put it all together here tonight.
He's in a very good spot, got up front again. All this is for his qualifying position for that main event, and because there's two heats, we'll split them down the rows for when do we actually run them up. I mean, not that you want to hang back, Ralph, but the positive is I mentioned there was a top 8 invert for this heat. There'll also be a top 8 invert for the feature. So somebody who had a really good start and fell off a little bit, like a Bilicki, like a Luke Cadup, maybe even Parise, who led a lap and then dropped back down to third, the invert could actually end up helping them a little bit later on. Of course, there are points on the line in this heat, though, so you do want to finish up the running order to get a lead in the championship.
Yeah, you want every one of those points you can get, right? I don't think you want to try on purpose to sandbag and get yourself set up for the invert for the main. But if you have a bad run in the heat, then that is a little bit of a catch your breath. Okay, we're all right because of the invert.
Past halfway, 5 minutes down, about 4 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock. You can see the intervals on the left-hand side of your screen. Barry pulling away. He's got 1.8 seconds over Josh Edmondson in second spot. Now, Edmondson was about 0.2 quicker than Barry last lap, so there may be a threat from Josh Edmondson as we race to the end of this first heat race, but it's at least a comfortable enough gap that I think Connor Barry can take it a little bit easy, but any sort of mistake, I mean, you're going to have Josh Edmondson all over you. And I mentioned, of course, Edmondson drove through the field, but because of the invert, he was actually the driver who was best in qualifying, so we really shouldn't be too shocked that he has the speed here in the race.
No, we've got Edmondson and Barry here, teammates. They do a lot of racing together. This is going to be interesting to see how Edmondson attacks Barry. These guys train together. They know each other's driving styles really, really well. So if there's one guy that's able to catch Barry, it's going to be Edmondson just because he knows the weaknesses of Barry.
We haven't talked much about Luke Cadup, but he slides there in 5th position. Ralph, he's one of those drivers that kind of falls into both categories, right? Tons of experience on the sim, but also does this kind of stuff in the real world as well, and is really taken to this iRacing stuff as of late. He's in a pretty good spot, trying to run inside of the top 5 as well. And in fact, in a quite heated battle right now with Crystal King. Now, King's a lap down. Remember, she barrel rolled off of the racetrack if you did that actually at Bark River, you may not still be running with a truck that looks that good. Pro with the sim is she can hit the reset button and jump back in. Unfortunate part is she's going to be a lap down and to find herself towards the rear of that main event. But, you know, for somebody like Luke Canup, this is somebody who Jim and I have kind of seen grow into this sim racing skill that he has over the last 3 years in these events.
He's in a really solid spot right now, putting in some good laps. I think he's going to be very happy with this top 5 finish in this heat race. Get some good points, get some good laps in, and get himself ready for the main.
I mentioned Chris Plumley a little bit earlier. He was the driver that went barrel rolling and flipping, I think, off of the track in the very first turn when we saw a lot of contact middle of the road. He has done a great job of bouncing back, fighting with Blake Reynolds right now for 6th and 7th position.
Hey, you got to give Blake Reynolds a lot of credit, too. You know, here's a guy who has been putting in the work on the eNASCAR front. We're getting ready to start eNASCAR. He's going eNASCAR racing, you know, the top level of, stock car racing in the sim world. And, you know, he's here putting some great lap times down on the eShort course front, something that might be not quite as familiar to him as stock cars.
A good-looking truck as well, so I guess doing his part to stay out of too much trouble early in this race. We're not really going to notice it, I think, a ton when you're doing, a heat race like this, 12 trucks for 10 minutes. But one of the coolest things about racing on the iRacing platform, Ralph, is, this track is going to wear itself in, right? I mean, when we get to a feature and we got a lot of trucks on there, you're going to see some blue groove form. You're going to see those marbles get kicked out, and this racetrack's going to wear in, right? It's going to drive very differently on lap 1 than it will at the very end of the race. And I think that ties in with what makes iRacing the most realistic platform in the sim space is, it mimics those track changes that you would see in real life.
Yeah, there's some real nice cushion still. What I've really noticed is how brutal the berms can be. If you don't get over the berms just right, boy, it really upsets the truck and it can send you for a wild ride.
We've seen drivers get a little bit too aggressive on the inside of some corners and hook them up on some berms as well. We've seen drivers get stuck on tires, get stuck on K-rails. We've seen drivers do everything but stay on the dirt at times, but it looks like they are wanting to play nice to the end of this first heat race. The battle up front heating up, though, for the heat race lead. Connor Berry's gap from Josh Edmondson has been chipped away, and as the white flag flies, Josh Edmondson now is right there in the battle for the top position. Connor Berry's got his hands full right now.
And look at that, Edmondson on the hunt. Looks like he's going to get into the back of Berry, looking to the inside. Nothing there, up on the berm on the inside. Man, Edmondson got about a half a lap to try and put it together.
He's been chipping away about 2 to 3 tenths per lap. Now that he's there, though, he's running out of time, and he may have to make a decision here, Ralph, and if he wants to put a bumper to Connor Berry, if it's worth it, because Berry's kind of parking the bus right where Edmondson would like to go. He may have to go off of that preferred line to find something here as he's running out of corners.
Well, let's see what he can do here if he can get a good drive off of one of these turns. They both get up on the banking there, up on the berm. Not going to be able to do it through there.
Everything he can, but in the tire tracks, and it will not happen. Connor Berry maintains that top position, and with a very impressive drive, wins heat race number 1 for the Pro 2 trucks. But even with those points in the bag, we talked about points on the line. A heat race win is going to net him 25 in terms of racing for this World Cup title. I think that speed from Josh Edmondson may have me just a little bit worried as we get later into the night. Shouldn't be a surprise to us at all, Jim, but clearly Josh is here to play, and he's always so fast. But I think has been one of the unluckier drivers at eShort course, and I'm sure he finally wants to put one of these things together.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Everybody knows Josh is fast. He's one of the top guys in the world, and, he's somehow escaped winning one of these World Cups. He came up short last year, came up short in the first year to Cam Peterson, who is one of his really good friends. So I think Josh may be approaching tonight with a little bit of chip on his shoulder, feeling like, hey, I'm good enough to win one of these things. I just haven't been able to put it together yet.
He did have the best lap out of anybody with a 1 minute 15.275 second lap time. Again, no drivers are sent home. They'll all make it to the Pro 2 feature race, but Connor Berry takes home the win in heat race number 1 ahead of Josh Edmondson in second. Connor Parise finished third ahead of Dave Baudio fourth and Luke Cadup in fifth. Christopher Plumley came home sixth ahead of Blake Reynolds in seventh. Anthony Alfredo in eighth position. Your pole sitter Josh Balicki down in ninth at Michael Guest P10. Trey Hernquist had a quiet one for P11, and we talked about the issues for Crystal King. She finishes one lap down in 12th position. So we'll re-rack them and stack them and take a look at your starting grid now for Pro 2 heat race number 2. And Elliott Watson will bring us to the green flag for this one. Qualifying time of 1:17.3 means that based on another 8-truck invert, he'll start up front alongside the 17 of Trenton Briley. Jarrett Brooks and Bobby Rafferty will make up row number 2 with Josh Fox and Brandon Proudfoot 5th and 6th, and then some big names. Cam Peterson starting 7th, Keaton Swain starting 8th. Look for those heavy hitters to come from the 4th row. They get a head start on Mikey Lawrence, and a couple of new faces to eShort course. NASCAR Xfinity driver Ryan Vargas is 10th. He's ahead of Raja Karuth, who starts 11th, and Ford Martin, who starts in the number 12 spot. I'll go to you on this one, Ralph. It's kind of hard to find a takeaway from that first heat, right? I didn't really find a trend. It didn't look like the drivers who started up front had too much of an advantage. It really looked like all you had to do was survive maybe those really chaotic first 2 or 3 laps. And once you got a little bit of elbow space, drivers who had that race pace were able to certainly pick up an advantage.
Smooth and clean, I think, Evan, is what you need to be. Just keep yourself out of trouble, put in some good laps, stay off those berms if you can.
And we wait on the rest of these trucks to jump in here. Let's see if we can go down truck side to our pit reporter, Tiffany Stone. And Tiff, it's good to have you back as well for a third year of eShort course action. I mean, you've seen a lot of these drivers as well grow on the service over the last 3 years. Of course, you know a lot of them outside of iRacing as well. Just wanted to get your thoughts on what we saw in heat race number 1.
No, exactly, kind of like what Ralph was saying. It's and what you were saying as well. We're seeing all of this, but as long as you can get out of the first 2, maybe 3 laps and get a lot of clean air, but you're also going to be able to see some of the greater drivers that have been here, like Christopher Plumley, being able to, hit that K-rail right out of the gate, but be able to go all the way up and, finish in the top 8 for that. I'm really looking forward to this and being able to see a lot of the real world drivers come over, especially in this next heat. We have Elliott Watson, Jarrett Brooks. So being able to watch those guys who have raced at these actual tracks in their bigger trucks come over here. This is a heat that I'm really looking forward to right now.
And we'll do a lot of comparisons between Bark River and Crandon when we mix it up and go to the big house a little bit later on this afternoon, Jim. But let's talk more about Bark River International Raceway. I mean, this track layout is one of the most unique in short course racing. It features a mix of sweeping and tight corners that force drivers to be really precise in their inputs, as well as natural jumps and multiple fast straightaways that lead to lots of full throttle racing. I mean, we talk about the technical aspects of this track and how it's a little bit different from Crandon, which we'll see later, a little bit different from the likes of Wild West and Wild Horse, which we've seen in the past with these eShort course races. I mean, Bark River certainly is one of the more unique ones, and I think it's a great place to kick off this World Cup. I mean, it's one of the premier tracks that you see in short course, let alone eShort course.
Yeah, Bark River's a marquee venue. This is track's been around for a very long time. It's iconic in the short course world. It's definitely a brother track to Crandon. They're only about a 2-hour drive apart. This one, lies in the UP of Michigan, about 1.5 miles long. It's got one of the biggest jumps in all of short course with this massive flyaway jump. It's got some big sweeping corners, and it's also got some very brutal berms, as we saw in that first heat race. You get out of the race line and push up a little bit. They've got some berms that'll just rock your world in a truck. And, as we saw, it upsets the trucks really, quite a bit. So I think, this takes a preciseness to be fast at Bark River, because if you get out of that race line, if you do make a mistake, it's going to penalize you. You're going to lose a lot of time. It's going to upset the truck, got a chance to put it on its side. So really the drivers with the most precision, I think we're going to find come out on top here.
1.5 mile track. We mentioned the 10-minute time limit, which is what establishes how long these heat races will go for. In that first heat race, the race leaders were able to complete 8 laps total. So that may also be a pro to being in the second heat race here, as you could watch and actually see how many laps on track translate to our 10-minute race timer, and maybe you can better identify maybe what kind of pace you want to attack this heat race in, knowing instead of I gotta guesstimate what 10 laps are, or what 10 minutes are, I should say, I gotta go 8 laps, right? Take it easy for the first 4, push a little bit in the second one, and certainly I think make this race one that you can be as technical as possible, if able. Again, that's all a question mark to see if it will play out. But all the trucks are gridded up, so we're going to go racing for heat race number 2 in the Pro 2 trucks. Of course, we already have the first 12 drivers entered into the grid for that main event. Now waiting for the second half. And again, big World Cup points on the line. 25 to the heat race winner, 18 to second, 15 to third. It'll pay out all through the top 10. But that big bunch of 25 points, I think, is going to be very important. Your race winner from the first heat started 7th, second place, and that one started 8th. So we may not need to look to the front of the grid. You may want to look to the middle of the pack to see how those drivers find their speed. As we look for the big green egg coming to green, Elliott Watson and Trenton Briley on the front row looking for the green flag. In this one, they'll round through the right-hander, set him up, put the right foot down, and we'll go racing for another 10-minute, 8-lap heat race. A lot more patience in this second heat race. Control truck Elliott Watson actually wanting to wait till they come to the start-finish straight to restart this one. In heat race number 1, we saw Josh Palicki go early. Now we are off and away, and it's a good jump for Briley. Trying to get a jump on the inside, but Watson answers back, and the 3 truck slides to the race lead.
Yeah, look at that. He slides the race lead, but Briley in the number 17 looks like jumping around there, trying to dive down to the bottom. Man, Elliott Watson definitely has his hands full as we see Jarrett Brooks up the inside. He's raced this track many times in real world. He knows the lines around here. Definitely one to watch.
Looks like that outside able to carry a little bit of speed through the corner, and a bit of a slip up there for the 22 truck. Lots of time thrown away for Brandon Proudfoot. He gets passed up by Swade, by Rafferty, by Brooks, and they're all able to catch up to Watson up front, who doesn't have much of a race lead. The 17 truck of Briley right there in the mix as well. The General Tire contest winner out of Acton, California, to get himself into this race, is racing with the big guns and holding his own so far in second. I think the patience we saw though on the start is there's a shove for Briley, moving Watson out of the way, but now he gives it too much, takes out a barrier, and Briley threw it away.
Well, there was some bumping and banging there. I saw, as the leader was getting bumped around, it looks like Rafferty got into Jarrett Brooks, spun Jarrett Brooks all the way around. Somebody else hit Jarrett Brooks, spun him back the right direction. Jarrett Brooks, a ping pong ball there, and somehow still comes out in 3rd place.
I mean, that's on me, because I was about to say, Ralph, I think those drivers waiting for the actual green to drop and a more patient start than what we saw in Heat Race 1 meant that that race was going to be cleaner. It certainly was through the first 4 corners, and right as they got to the thought, Trenton Briley risked it all, went in, made contact with Watson, split himself out. He's way down now in 7th, and it's handed the early lead over to Keaton Swain, who gridded up way back in 8th position in this race.
Yeah, Swain, the new leader, came on strong here on this lap. He got through all that carnage, made the most of it with an aggressive pass.
Factory Sim Sport driver out of Gilbert, Arizona, the 2022 invitee into this event, won a recent eShort course event here on the service, the Group Therapy 100 in Crandon. That was back in December of 2021, and now finds himself in a good spot, but he's happy to be ahead of all of this. This is the Hornet's Nest for 2nd position on back. Jarrett Brooks has a small advantage, but you got Watson, Rafferty, Peterson, Proudfoot. I mean, a lot of drivers really itching to get going, fighting here. Currently looking at the side-by-side back there for about 4th position between Rafferty and Peterson. Proudfoot's there as well. I mean, those 3 names right there, Jim, some of the who's who in eShort course.
Yeah, and I'm really impressed with Cam Peterson here in the number 48. Obviously we know he's one of the best in the business, but, he knows he's got about 7 minutes left in this heat race, and he's slowly picking his way through. He saw all the bumping and banging and the chaos and the carnage that's happening up front, and he's really tiptoeing his way through this field. He's up close. He knows he's got the truck. It's going to be interesting to see how he picks off these drivers. I think he's definitely quicker than everybody else at the moment, but I think Cam Peterson, being the veteran he is, he's kind of like a snake in the grass. He's stalking his prey, and he's waiting to pick his way through as we see him get around Bobby Rafferty right there.
I mean, he's letting Rafferty and Elliott Watson do damage to themselves. It looked like that last time through, Watson kept giving shots there with Rafferty. Rafferty kept getting into the back of the 3 truck, and Cam just kind of stayed out of it, went to the inside and picked up. And now that he's disposed of the 7 truck, what can he do with the 3 of Jarrett Brooks? Brooks obviously trying to get himself a real good finish in this one. Started in 3rd and is trying to use that track position to his advantage. But all of this fighting for 2nd place has allowed Swain to check out Ralph. I mean, he is 4 seconds ahead of the battle we're watching right now for 2nd on back. I mean, we mentioned it earlier, maybe the only takeaway we could find at a heat race 1 was to stay out of trouble, and I guess Keaton Swain found the way to do so, and that is just get so far ahead you aren't in the chaos.
Well, smooth is fast, and that's what he's doing. He's running a good smooth line. He's staying off those berms, and he's pulling away.
Doing a real good job up front, basically just putting down hot laps up at the front of the field as that gap grows to some 4.7 seconds. The gaps aren't growing back here in traffic. Watson in the number 3 spot, trying to hold off Peterson. The 48 of Rafferty in the mix, 48 of Peterson, I should say, but the 7 of Rafferty funny to back on him. I mean, Brandon Proudfoot wants in on the action as well. 3 career wins at eShort course, and he's done it just about everywhere on the asphalt. Laguna Seca, Long Beach, and Lime Rock, but Jim looking to translate that success here on the dirt.
Yeah, and Proudfoot, that's another guy, you mentioned he's had a lot of success in eShort course. He's a guy that can take this World Cup. We haven't talked about him much, but I think he's definitely one to watch as things progress. But, very smart. He does a lot of racing in various different disciplines. eShort course definitely isn't his normal go-to, but seems like anytime the spotlight is on, Brandon Proudfoot comes out to play.
It sure looks to me like Peterson has really got some good lines going here. Peterson's really putting the pressure on Rafferty.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's done so many laps here that he could do a lap blindfolded. I mean, you talk about the preciseness of Cam Peterson, Ralph, and that's basically what he's known for with his success around the service, is just how perfect he could be lap after lap. And maybe it's a chaotic elegance to this kind of racing, Jim, but if you watch these trucks, one word that you don't necessarily think of from a spectator's perspective is smooth, right? I mean, it looks rough and physical, and it definitely is from behind the wheel. But when you can slow all that chaos down like we can see Cam Peterson do on such a consistent basis, that I think is what really sets him apart and allows him to find success time after time. And how about this on the outside of some 3 wide action with Rafferty in the middle there, but Rafferty's going to use the berm on the wide lane to take that spot away from Peterson.
And I've made this comparison to the real world Cam Peterson quite a bit, and he's so good in eShort course. He's won everything you can and you watch. He's so precise with his movements. He doesn't hardly ever make a mistake, as we see him put 2 wheels in the grass. But the guy I like to compare him to in the real world the most is Scott Dixon. I mean, Scott Dixon is just phenomenal. You watch him drive, and there's nobody in the world like him. It's arguably one of the best drivers in the world, and I feel like Cam Peterson definitely is the Scott Dixon of eShort course. Just the way he approaches things, the time he spends in the sim rig, and the success he's found in eShort course. I mean, we're watching the best in the business right now.
Talking about some of the drivers who may not have that short course experience, real or virtual. Raja Karuth out of this heat race early. Of course, Raj well known for being an active member in the iRacing community, but as well working his way up the NASCAR ranks. Recently, had an opportunity to test in a NASCAR Xfinity Series car and continues to work through as an alum of the NASCAR Drive for Diversity program. He unfortunately not going to make it to the end of this one. Ryan Vargas as well, another driver out of the Charlotte area, Xfinity Series driver, full-time in 2022. So the Oval guys as well getting in on the fun.
Yeah, Oval guys getting in on the fun, and I got to say, as we were making that last call, who dropped back, had a problem there was Elliott Watson. One of our early leaders there, he was running in the top 2 or 3, and, Watson now is finding himself all the way back into 7th place. Looked like he had a spin at one point on that last lap. So one of the early leaders now taking himself out. He's going to be fighting for as many points he possibly can get, but right now it's Swain, Brooks, and Proudfoot sitting 1, 2, 3.
And I believe it was a self-spin for Watson, all on his own, and it looks like it likely happened at about turn number 5 back on lap number 6. So Watson was pressured from behind, and he just caught those berms a little bit wrong. I mean, Ralph, you touched on that early, that the berms looked very unforgiving, and he just didn't set up for that section quite right, and it spit that truck out, and it boots him out of the top 6 just like that.
Yeah, you got to stay off of those. Some of them are manageable. Some of them will actually send you back into the course. But there's others that if you get up on them, they're just going to send the truck every way you don't want to go.
So a tough break for him there, picking up the action towards the front of the field, still watching this great fight for 3rd and 4th position. Proudfoot has got it. Peterson wants it. I mean, these two have gone at it so many times here on the iRacing service, and Proudfoot the better truck at the moment, but Peterson right there, I mean, plastered on the back of the 22 truck, trying to push it up the inside there. You won't often see Peterson, though, initiate contact, Ralph. It's almost like a drift tandem when he goes side by side with somebody, throws it in there, and mimics the pitch of the other truck perfectly. And right there, Proudfoot recognized Peterson had the positioning, and that's how you make a pass without a touch. I mean, that was about as clean as it gets.
Yeah, that was pretty textbook, and with less than 30 seconds to go, you got to get it done.
Final couple of corners for these drivers in 3rd and 4th position. Keaton Swain up towards the front of the field in control. We mentioned 8 laps going to be the magic number. Swain currently working lap number 8 in this one, and has about 2 more corners to go until he sees the checkered flag fly. So clean for Keaton Swain. How about a dominant run, takes them all to school, and by some 7+ seconds, Keaton Swain is the winner in heat race number 2. And with a late pass, how about that one? Brooks is 2nd. Proudfoot does drop to 4th. And Cam Peterson, last lap pass, finds himself in the top 3. Now again, that extra spot means more points. Will hurt him on the invert. But I think, as Ralph mentioned earlier in this one, Jim, the goal has to be points. Even if it hurts you on an invert, you got to look for as many points as you can. And Cam Peterson was making moves till the very last lap.
Yeah, you definitely want to gather as many points as you can. You got to add them up, and every last position counts at the end of the night. Obviously, we've got a couple of heat races, some main events yet to go. And, like I said, man, every single point is going to matter when we determine a World Cup champion come the end of the evening.
Couple of trucks towards the rear of the field still coming across the start-finish line. Again, no drivers go home, but let's talk about the finishing results for heat race number 2. Keaton Swain gets the win. Jared Brooks, by the way, not to discredit the 077. We didn't talk much about him because he was kind of in his own little bubble. The professional Pro 2 driver out of Alpine, California, finished 2nd in this race. Slowed down a little bit in the final corner, so Keaton Swain actually gets a final margin of victory of some 11 seconds. But Brooks was very confidently the second best truck in that race, and he'll finish in P2. We talked about Peterson going from 7th to 3rd. Proudfoot goes from 6 to 4, and Trenton Briley, the first driver in the running order to finish in the negative, fell back from 2nd to finish 5th in that second heat. Bobby Rafferty came home in 6th. Your pole sitter Elliott Watson had that single truck spin and finished in 7th. Josh Fox, really surprising quiet night for the 12. He finished down in 8th ahead of Mikey Lawrence. Ryan Vargas in 10th. Ford Martin quiet as well at 11th. And we touched on the issues for Raja Karuth in 12th position, who does not make it to the end of the race and hopefully has an opportunity to group himself up and try again for the feature. Let's go back down trackside with our pit reporter, Tiffany Stone. And Tiffany, I think our predictions kind of in between the heats were correct, right? It was key to be clean. I think it was certainly just overall a cleaner race, but we did see a lot of the same things, right? Some drivers made major mistakes that cost them. Drivers who started mid-pack were able to drive their way through the field. So I don't want to say it was predictable, But what we learned in Heat Race 1 came true in Heat Race 2. My question is, now that we double the truck count for the feature and to make it that much longer, I'm not sure how many of those notes will actually apply.
And people were picking different lines. They were pushing out a little bit because if you've never had a chance to actually drive or be on true blue groove, it's very, very slippery. It's very slick. And what I saw is I did see a few trucks take a little further out, get into that berm to try to get a different line than somebody else. But like you said, there's so many more trucks that are going to go into the final. Everybody advances. So many more trucks. That's just going to leave less room for error. But if they do have the errors, that's just when, the top drivers are going to capitalize on other drivers' mistakes.
And we'll see that as well into this feature race. As you talk about the track getting worn in, that track state now going to carry over from this warm-up session into the features. So these drivers have a 5-minute session right now to just make some final adjustments. If you're just joining us, we mentioned at the top of the show that it is a fixed setup race, so you can't really tweak on any of the under the hood aspects of these trucks. All these drivers have the exact same scan of a Pro 2 truck that they're driving with. They are all set up identically. This is going to come down 110% to the driver, but certainly drivers may be learning things as they watched other cars grow. Jim might learn, hey, these guys were really using this berm, or he's sticking a tire off here and gaining some time that I wasn't able to. I think that's what drivers are picking up here in this warm-up session, is just fine-tuning some small details, give you an extra couple of tenths of a second, and hope that helps once we go green for the main.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the keys here. We've got a lot of these veterans, guys like Josh Edmondson, Cam Peterson, guys like Knupp and Connor Berry who do this all the time. And, and then you've got a lot of guys that maybe this is the first time in a proper eShort course event. Maybe they played on the sim. This is their first race. And now in this practice session, they're able to follow these guys around, see their lines, see the way they're attacking things, the way they're approaching things, and probably picking a lot up. I could tell you if I was Josh Edmondson or Cam Peterson, I'd have my truck parked in the virtual garage. I wouldn't be showing any of my lines away in this practice session.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, kind of keep your secrets to yourself, and everybody knows that Cam Peterson's going to be quick. I mean, you talk about some of that gamesmanship. We talked about the virtual courage earlier as well, Ralph, the fact that it's a virtual truck. It's not your money. If you're tearing it up, you hit the reset button, right? It's not going to hurt if you drive it into somebody's door. And these sim racers, the drivers who don't have that real world experience, I mean, I think they're probably getting a kick at a racing against some of these real world pros as well, right? But it is fun, but these drivers want to win at the end of the day. I mean, they're going to get ultra competitive, and we saw it there with some of those aggressive fights in the heats. I think we're going to see drivers even more aggressive when it comes to this feature, knowing that you got a Pro 2 main and you got a Pro 4 main. Yeah, you can get some points in the heats and qualifying over the night, but I mean, this is it. This is big money time in the points. And I don't think you can take this first race a little bit lightheartedly, because you don't want to dig yourself a hole going into the Pro 4 part of the night. I mean, you really need to start off with a good finish.
Yeah, that's for sure. But the one thing you have to do is keep that adrenaline at check. You don't want to get so keyed up that you make a big mistake, roll the truck over, and then your lap's down.
And I think that's where, chatting with some of the fellow competitors or your team on the radio. I mean, we saw that with Anthony Alfredo, Jim, when we watched some of his onboard stuff earlier tonight. I mean, he's door banging somebody. I mean, they're looking like they're trying to rip each other's door panels off, and he's laughing and chatting at the same time, right? I think that's as well a very big important thing to keep in mind, is don't get yourself too worked up here, because you need to get that game face locked in when it's time to go green.
Yeah, and I think there's a happy medium here. These guys really want to win, but there's a good chance they're really good friends behind the scenes. They're having a little fun. They're talking some trash. But at the end of the day, this is a big race. This is the Indy 500 of eShort course. These guys really want to win, and there's a lot of heat races and a lot of main events, throughout the evening. So you really don't want to lean on somebody too hard in heat race number one, because you're going to have to race with them the rest of the evening. And as Ralph knows from his Supercross days, usually what goes around comes around, and you don't want to make somebody mad early, because by the end of the night you'll come to regret it.
You will see them again, that is for sure.
And in a big field of 24 trucks, there's nowhere to hide if you make some enemies out there. Let's take a look at your starting grid for the Pro 2 main event. And again, based on a top 8 inverts, so the top 4 finishers from each heat race have been inverted. Brandon Proudfoot will find himself on the front row alongside Dave Bodio. Cam Peterson starts dangerously close to the front of the field in third in search of another eShort course win. He's alongside Connor Parise, Jarrett Brooks, and Josh Edmondson to make up row 3. Keaton Swain is in 7th ahead of Connor Berry in the number 8 spot. Luke Canup is 9th. Trenton Briley in 10th. The rest of your running order includes, of course, all of the trucks that participated in the heats. Now, the format for this main just slightly different. Not only did we double the amount of trucks, but we have added 5 minutes to our time. So 15-minute timed feature. And oh, by the way, something that we've seen in the past in the short course is those competition cautions halfway that has allowed drivers to kind of break up these races into segments. Not going to see that here this afternoon. We are racing 15 minutes nonstop. I mean, maybe we can have a prediction, Jim, on how many trucks are going to make it through the first 3 corners, because it was crowded with 24 trucks. Is a huge field that'll barrel into those first few turns.
You know, and I think this is, this is going to be interesting. There's a lot of strategy goes in here because everybody's grouped up. So if you risk it early on, you got a chance to pass 5 or 6 trucks. But at the same point in time, you really don't want to throw it away in the first couple turns of the race when everybody's grouped up either. So there's definitely a lot of risk-reward factor here, and we're going to see who wants to, throw caution to the wind and try and shoot their way to the front.
Base truck has gotten out of Dodge. Green flag in the air. We are racing for the Pro 2 main event, and it is a good start. Nice challenge by Bodio, but Proudfoot in the end is going to win out on the inside at turn number 2. Here comes the 11 of Connor Parise, quiet in his heat. Up the inside, 3 wide is Josh Edmondson. What a move as the 58 truck slides into second spot, Ralph, but the 11 of Connor Parise will not go away. Parise tries to fight back, and now finally Edmondson clear for second.
Oh, you can see the way they're running at the front here, all packed up like this. Somebody's going to get sucked into trying to make a move, and it could be disastrous. Let's see if somebody decides to go hard up the inside.
Asian in the top 5, but some banging further on back. Jarrett Brooks put it to the inside, and a spinner behind the 16 truck. It is turned. Dave Bodio, who started this one in second, he's spun around towards the rear, and it all started with a push up the inside by Liebert there. A couple of the trucks got hooked together. Bodio, the big loser for that one. He'll fall from the front row all the way down to 20th position. This big battle is for 4th on back. There's a ton more contact there. The 16 truck getting used up again. You got mid-pack battles. The lot of action around the 7 truck. Bobby Rafferty, he's got a lot of company around him. He's just ahead of Chris Plumley. Blake Reynolds is right there as well. That's the light blue number 66 machine. Keaton Swain up the road as well in the 21 truck. So bits of contact here and there, a couple of spinners. Nothing major, though, admittedly, in lap 1.
Yeah, nothing major. Had some aggressive driving here and there, but no harm, no foul. Elbows were out a little bit early. Whoa, as we see Blake Reynolds getting bounced around there by, looks like Bobby Rafferty. And, man, he was a little bit of a ping pong ball out Plumley to get around as well. But you're going to have that with 23, 24 trucks on the grid all at one time. One of the ones I'm watching, though, is Crystal King. Started all the way in the back road, moving her way up to 15th after 1 lap. So, she ran strong in that heat race until she had a little bit of bad luck. Maybe one to watch as this thing plays out, see how Crystal King can work her way through the field.
She probably deserved a better finish than she actually got in that heat race, Ralph. Up there leading the laps, ended up in an incident and barrel rolled off track, ended up a lap down and in last position. These 15 minutes are going to give you a little bit more time to work through traffic, but she'll certainly appreciate if there is some chaos and contact further up the road, because that'll help her close the gap. She's gaining positions on the leaderboard. The problem is, just by starting so far down the line, even though she's gaining spots, she's 11 seconds off of the race leader just based on the distance that they started apart. So drivers up front obviously want each other to keep it clean, but some of these trucks towards the back would love some chaos up front to close that gap down a little bit.
Yeah, she's running really good laps. She's shown that she's fast, But like you said, she's just got the challenge of the way the field was lined up and where she had to start. What she could do here, though, is benefit from having a good points tag.
Trying to be consistent. A little bit of damage on the front end, some battle scars, but she'll be okay. Further up the road, Edmondson is still in second. Proudfoot still leading this race. The real fun is behind these two for third. Connor Parise on the back. Parise is in third, Barry is in fourth, and Cam Peterson right there in fifth. This trio fighting to try to close the gap on the top two, but also they're all fighting against each other. In that corner right there where they're using so much of the berm, they're basically all four tires off the dirt and up and in the grass on the K-rail. We didn't see a ton of drivers doing that, Jim, in Heat Race 1, but a couple of drivers did it in 2, and I have to think these drivers are watching because now every corner drivers are pushing it way wide, especially there, though, every lap, using that to try to get a better run off the turn. So these drivers are learning as this race goes on, picking up what other drivers are doing.
Yeah, they're picking up what other drivers are doing, and I, got to mention the top 5 guys here are all teammates. They all race with each other, train with each other, things like that. So a lot of them know their driving style, but not only that, you're not really going to put your elbows out on a teammate because these guys are going to have to go back next week and reset and going to have to answer to each other. So it's going to be interesting. I think you're going to see some really clean, really good racing here in the top 5. But looking at 6th and 7th and 8th and on back, those guys are not teammates. So they may come in and upset the top 5 here, and elbows may come out.
Jim, there's that one left-hand corner where everybody's getting up over that berm, and it really upsets the truck. And I got to keep an eye on that because I think if somebody hits that just wrong, it's really going to send the truck flying.
Yeah, and it's funny, in the real world, I've races here and I've watched it, and it very much is the exact same way in the real world. That corner just wants to push you out towards that berm. So you see a lot of the guys, like we just saw go through there, they almost ride it and almost like a bicycle over the berm. If you check up and you don't hit the berm, you lose a lot of time. So it's better to ride that berm, but it's not a berm that's really easy to attack, so it makes it really interesting. But like you said, you get out of that line or you push up on it too hard and all of a sudden it upsets the truck. Yeah, that's
the one there.
A lot of drivers getting a little bit out of shape. We've seen a couple of drivers end up way out in the weeds, right out in the grass, but have been able to get it back on track. We've also seen drivers really hike it up on some of the inside berms, right? I mean, they're really trying to cut the inside of the corner, that if you're hitting that aggressively and lifting that left front tire up and off of the ground, you're pushing yourself off wide. You're just getting a little bit longer for those back tires to really straighten up off the turn and point and shoot when we talk about that two-wheel drive, something that's going to be a lot easier with the Pro 4s later. But the battle for the race lead is on. Edmondson to the inside of Proudfoot, and he's got him. What a pass for Josh Edmondson. Uses the high line just for extra measure, and it took 5 laps in, but Josh Edmondson is once again leading in the World Cup.
Yeah, Edmondson sat back. He bided his time. Obviously, we saw he was ridiculously close there in his heat race. Ended up second, right on Barry's bumper. And, he knows he's got what it takes to run up front. Love to come back, home with a World Cup championship. I got to say, he's currently leading this and second in his heats. Josh is sitting pretty right now if he can keep it all together for 8 more minutes of this main event.
A long time. I mean, a lot can happen there, but certainly Josh Edmondson, not somebody who is prone to mistakes. Now, you can see he's already gapped about 1.3 seconds to Proudfoot. Proudfoot's going to want to really be aggressive here to stay up front because it is not a fun scene from about 3rd or 4th position on back, right? He's got about maybe 8 truck lengths right now to Connor Parise, who sits in 3rd, but then after him, it's Cam Peterson and friends, and that's where it's all chaotic from 4th position on back. Peterson's got Barry all over him. You got Knupp. You got Brooks, Swain, a lot of those drivers trying to infiltrate that team lockdown on the top 5, Ralph. And to Jim's point earlier, it's your teammates up front. If you're racing against a teammate, you're going to race them differently than you race against a foe. And you're not going to run into somebody the same way, but I would almost think I'd want to beat my teammate more than somebody else. It'll be fun to see that dynamic if some of those guys can break up these teammates up front and kind of stir the pot a little bit, put them into some uncomfortable positions, and maybe this race will open up in the top 5.
Beating your teammate is always the first thing you want to do. After that is going for the overall win, and this is the World Cup. So things are going to get pretty aggressive here, I got to believe.
And they're all lurking. I mean, we did get through, I will say, for 24 trucks, Jim, pretty clean from the start of this one. Past halfway, 6 minutes, 40 seconds left on the clock in this Pro 2 main event. We got away with, no more than just 2 trucks on the hook. That's not that bad. But this is still kind of a melting pot. I mean, I think it's just waiting to erupt. You got so many trucks here. If you go from 3rd position on down to 7th, you got right there 5 spots separated by only about 2.3 seconds. I mean, these trucks are all on top of each other. All it takes is for one driver to slip up, one driver to get into somebody else, and once they get out of line and out of rhythm, this thing will crack wide open, I feel.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, these next 5 minutes here because, as Ralph said earlier, I think we've detonated the bomb, and at some point in the next 5 minutes, the bomb's going to go off, and we're going to see a free-for-all. Everybody's kind of laid up for for this first 10 minutes of this feature, and I think these last 5, it's going to be crunch time. It's going to be go time. There's going to be crucial points on the line that are going to determine a lot come the end of the night for crowning a World Cup champion. So I think all bets are off here in the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, you don't want to take that aggressive move too soon because you don't want to give the other guy the opportunity to get you back. So you've got to set your pace of exactly when you want to throw it all out there.
I have to wonder how much familiarity is going to come into this. As look at this door bang and a slide on the inside for Cam Peterson. We saw him do a lot of real clean moves in the heat race, but that time he certainly muscled the 11 of Parise out of the road, and Connor Berry sees the door open. His 28 truck will drive through as well, and just like that, in the blink of an eye, Parise drops from 3rd to 5th position, now maybe even more, as he's being challenged by Luke Canup in the 77 truck. Canup wasn't able to do it that time in the Shenandoah Shine entry, but looking underneath the 11, I mean, he's going to work him over hard. Again, now you got foes on you. Luke Canup's got no, incentive here to take it easy on Connor Parise, and all it took was one bad corner that opened up the door for Peterson, and now the 11's really struggling as he takes a shot there.
Yeah, and Canup, one of the top, short course sim racers in the world here, and he's been very, very patient. He knows he's got what it takes to run up front as well. He's been sitting here, and it looks like he's got the speed, probably a hair quicker than Parise today at the moment. So I think you're going to see him tuck in there, tuck to the bottom, maybe put a little bit of door on Parise at some point, try and make this pass.
Might come down to it. We'll see as the clock continues to tick away. Inside of 4 minutes left on the clock. You got to figure you're only going to have about 3 more laps around in this race. There is some traffic as well being a factor. Pulled off to the side there was Ford Martin. Get out of the way. Struggled early in this one. One of the drivers who found himself in a bit of chaos. He'll drop a lap down. Join the likes of Briley and Watson, who were on the hook earlier in this one. And his driver's really scrapping for just some points and hoping to forget about this Pro 2 race and put it on behind him. For the rest of the drivers that we continue to watch up front, big points on the line. 50 for the race win, 40 for second, 35 for third, and it'll continue down all through the top 20 to get points out of this one. But at this point, Edmondson has shown me no sign of slowing Ralph. He continues to be smooth. He was once again that last lap the second best truck on track, and he's 3.3 seconds up the road, really in his hands now if he can just take this easy. And that buffer as well, that 2.4 second gap that he's working with now, will allow him to take some of those berms a little bit less aggressively, right? He's not going to have to push the envelope and put himself in a spot where a mistake is more likely. Not saying that he'd sandbag, but just slow it a little bit to a comfortable pace to make sure that you're not risking anything unnecessary when you're certainly in the catbird seat right now.
Well, he's found his rhythm. He can put the truck exactly where he wants it to stay out of any potential danger spots and just put in good, clean laps. And that's all he's doing. That's what he's doing. And it's going to get him to victory.
Watching Edmondson in the back further in the field. We talk about how he's watching all this out the rear view mirror. Cam Peterson still, I think, the instigator in this second pack, and Cam Peterson wants to make a fight for second position. He and Brandon Proudfoot came together a couple of times the last corner. Again, initiating contact there is Cam Peterson. But if you get into it with Proudfoot up the road, watch out for Connor Berry. I mean, he's just lurking right now, Jim, sitting in fourth position. He's the third truck in this battle, that blue and black Pro 2, third in line here. He may let Peterson and Proudfoot do the dirty work and try to pounce on it if they start exchanging blows.
Yeah, and I think that's what he's waiting for. He's waiting for Peterson to make his move, and, at some point he may try and sneak in and get a 2-for-1 deal on this one. He's very smart back there, knows, Cam Peterson's not a guy you want to really pressure because he's not going to crack. So I think his best bet is to do just what he's doing, sit back and wait. Obviously, with a minute left, we probably only got about another lap to go. But Connor Berry, he won his heat race. He's got a lot of points. He knows points are going to, be really crucial here, but he definitely doesn't want to make a mistake and push it too early and end up losing a couple spots.
And here's Peterson on the bottom. He got a much better run that time through the corner, and it's just easy to point it out on Peterson because he fought all the way to the very end of his heat race. He's been in a kind of a battle for the entirety of this main event, and I'm sure it's happening with trucks elsewhere out. But again, for Peterson, we didn't see him making these big swinging moves, getting into guys' doors in that heat race, but he has certainly been much more aggressive in this feature, which I think is exactly what we were expecting to see out of these drivers.
Well, heat races don't pay what mains do, right? But Barry's got to be right in the position to take advantage if Peterson goes for it, or he's going to have to send it on his own, like maybe right here.
You saw an opening, look to the outside, but Peterson shut the door, and that challenge from Connor Berry behind may have given Proudfoot enough of a gap to defend for the number 2 spot. Meanwhile, up front, Josh Edmondson has been on cruise control since he went to the race lead early in this one, and he may be going through the final set of corners for the number 58 truck. Started the night off well with a second place finish in his heat race, but he'll take home a 50-point score. Edmondson wins the Pro 2 main event and starts on the right foot looking for a World Cup title.
Man, what a run for Edmondson. He inherited the lead and was able to hold it, ran super clean all day. Add that to his second place finish in the heat. And, he's in the catbird seat here as we move into the Pro 4 side of things, for the second half of the World Cup.
Well, he's celebrating out in the grass, and a congratulatory bump right there for Cam Peterson. Good night out. We talked about that team domination. Both those drivers end up on the podium, but Josh Edmondson is the big winner in this one because he takes the early lead in search of the General Tire eShort Course World Cup, fueled by Fistful of Bourbon overall points lead. Pro 2 trucks down from Bark River will take an opportunity to step aside. Still much more to come, including the Pro 4 trucks from Wild West. You're watching the 2022 eShort Course World Cup here on iRacing.
Courtesy and reverse in a compact 7-inch by 2-inch fixture. The rigid chase attaches to any roll bar or flat mounting surface, and users can control each of the multiple functions independently. The rigid chase is one more way for off-road enthusiasts to own.
Are you tired of searching all over the internet for that perfect set of wheels for your ride? Then download the all-new Vision It app from Vision Wheels. The all-new Vision It augmented reality app lets you preview hundreds of Vision wheels on your vehicle in a matter of seconds. Just download the app, select your wheel of choice, and share photos of your vehicle via social media or email. It's the Vision It app, new from Vision Wheel.
There's a place where fire and flavor are celebrated, where grilling traditions and new techniques are perfected. Here in Big Green Egg Country, you can grill it, roast it, smoke it, or bake it. It's the most versatile grill you'll ever own. Simple to light, easy to use, comes with a free lifetime warranty. Have it delivered to your door by a certified dealer in your community and start enjoying the ultimate cooking experience. Shop online for home delivery at BigGreenEgg.com. That's Big Green.
Take your driving to the next level at Dirtfish. Gain confidence behind the wheel of an all-wheel drive Subaru STI or rear-wheel drive BRZ. Get sideways with skills on gravel, mud, and tarmac. Dirtfish offers programs for every driver. Visit dirtfish.com.
General Tire was born more than 100 years ago, right here in America. We've spent the last century tackling every kind of road this country has to offer, and especially the places without roads. So you know that with General Tire, anywhere.
Oh, the sun is so bad.
I fully agree. The glare right now is insane.
You know, maybe we do like at like a sunset.
Sunset,
yeah, sunset duel. Yes,
that's a great idea.
Yeah,
it'll be so purple out until blood runs through the streets.
It ain't just a bourbon; it's a damn fist.
One fistful of bourbon.
Who's doing that? It ain't just a bourbon; it's a damn fist.
The Rigid Chase Light incorporates 5 modes, including stroke, brake, running, courtesy, and reverse in a compact 7-inch by 2-inch fixture. The Rigid Chase attaches to any roll bar or flat mounting surface, and users can control each of the multiple functions independently. The Rigid Chase is one more way for off-road enthusiasts to
The General Tire eShort Course World Cup, fueled by Fistful of Bourbon, rolls on as we head west to Sparks, Nevada for the virtual Wild West Motorsports Park. It is time to go Pro 4 truck racing. Just saw the first checkered flag of the first 50 points handed out in this 2022 World Cup when we saw Josh Edmondson dominate in the Pro 2 feature race. And now we'll start them all from scratch. Want to welcome you back inside the iRacing broadcast booth with myself, Evan Pasoko, Jim Beaver, Ralph Shaheen upstairs with our pit reporter, Tiffany Stone, down virtual trackside. And Jim, I'll bounce back to you on this one first. Just talking in between races for 24 Pro 2 trucks. That was a pretty clean start to this World Cup, and I mean, I think the way that the corners and hairpins at this next location set up, that may change as we head into the Pro 4s.
Yeah, well, you got to give me a chance to catch my breath. That was a very fast run that I just did from the UP of Michigan all the way to Reno, Nevada. So catching my breath a little bit here, you know, during that commercial break. But no, it was great racing. You know, I know for a lot of people that are fans of sim racing and shorters, maybe not quite as action-packed as they expected, but that was because it was ridiculously clean. Something unlike we've ever seen before. I think we were all talking during the break that, man, we were expecting the big one. And the big one never happened. And these drivers raced so well, it kind of has me in shock. I'm expecting some kind of shenanigans to happen here at Wild West. It's got to happen.
It's certainly a chance, and I don't know, maybe Ralph's thinking that all of us are just, hurrying and thinking that we want some chaos for how disappointed we were that we didn't have a bunch of trucks upside down, Ralph. But now that you got a couple of these sim races under your belt, what'd you think of the Pro 2 action we saw to kick off the night?
Well, I think the racers figured out that smooth is fast, and they knew the points were very, very important, and they did what they had to do to get points and to win. And even though it might not have delivered the thrills and spills that Jim was hoping for, it did provide for good racing.
And this is true. And now these drivers, of course, switch from the Pro 2 to the Pro 4. Jim, and we touched on the differences between the trucks earlier this afternoon. Of course, maybe a tad bit longer, the maximum wheelbase, weight's about the same. You maybe got a little bit more horsepower depending on how it's set up. But the big change is these are going to drive differently now that you have four-wheel drive versus the two-wheel drive we saw earlier. Does that let these drivers be more aggressive? How are they going to change how they race? I know the track's different first off, but from the truck perspective, going from the Pro 2s to the Pro 4s, now that you got that front-end drive as well kicking in, how are these drivers going to be able to attack these corners and maybe attack one another a bit differently?
Yeah, well, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. The Pro 2 is all about finesse. It's dancing. It's precision. It's precise. These Pro 4s, they're high horsepower. They're exuberant driving styles. You can back it into the corner. You can slide it beyond sideways, and still come out of the corner. So I think you're going to see these drivers really attack, get really aggressive. And, this track at Wild West, I mean, it's got, a huge jump, ski jump as we call it. And, some big tabletops down the front stretch. I think it's going to provide for some action-packed racing, and I'm really excited to get these heat races underway.
Of course, we know that based on the finishing positions in that first race of the night, Edmondson has got his night off to a great start. He's at the top of the board, got the 50 points in the final. The way that drivers qualified and raced through the field in that opener, though, at Bark River, it admittedly confuses me a little bit, Ralph, right? In the heat races, we saw a lot of drivers who didn't qualify well, start up front based on the invert, and then very quickly the people who qualified well picked back up. We saw a lot of drivers who started 7th and 8th, right, in that 8-truck invert, end up finishing in the top 3. So I'm thinking we go to the feature, you'll probably see that a lot as well in the top 8 because we did the same invert. Didn't necessarily happen in the feature. A lot of the drivers who couldn't get all the way back up to the front in their heat got a little bit of a better starting spot in the feature and held their position. So I can't really give you a crystal ball of where you want to qualify here. Again, there are some points available based on qualifying, but you got to be in the top 5 of 24. I mean, that is a tall order if you want to get any points here in this open qualifying session, but it's not like, starting outside of the top 10 doomed you. It's not like starting on the front row sent you in either. Drivers were able to find success from everywhere in that first race.
Yeah, I've never been one who thought that sandbagging in a qualifying session to beat the invert helps you out. I've always thought you're just better off going for it, doing the best you can, getting your rhythm going, and get into your groove, and then go for the win.
Taking a look at some onboard perspectives here as we look in at this qualifying session. They have 10 minutes to put down as many laps as they can if they can get up to 10 of them in this session. Of course, the beauty of the sim is that all of our 18 trucks loaded in right now are actually racing at the same time, but you only see one truck out there at a time means that they can get some clean laps in. And Tiffany, I know we'll get some driver reaction a little bit later on, but just based on what we've heard from when you've talked to drivers in the past, that debate between qualifying and race, I mean, I'm sure drivers would love to get the 10 points for qualifying up front, right? Just to know that they have that speed, but certainly that race craft and that race finesse when you're going to be out there at the end of the night here with some 20-something trucks in the feature takes more importance over what you can do on one hot lap. So these drivers, I think, have learned a bit. We saw them change how they drove through those Pro 2 races, and I'm expecting we'll see a little bit of that here in the Pro 4 side as well. Even though some of these drivers, I'm sure, have done hundreds of laps here at Wild West on the sim, I think they'll still learn as this night goes on.
Exactly, and when you're not having practice for the Pro 4s where they did have them for the Pro 2s, qualifying is going to be super important, but you want to be able to understand what the other drivers are going to do, you want to understand what the track is going to do, and like Jim said, it's going to be a little bit more aggressive. There's some hairpins, there's some corners, and of course that huge ski jump. So I've actually never been to Wild Horse, but I heard nothing but great things, and I just hear how fast the actual Pro 4s really are when they are out there.
Well, welcome virtually to the Silver State, and let's talk about this one, right? I mean, we mentioned off at the top, Jim, we would compare how we started this afternoon at Bark River and where we would go to Wild West here tonight. This racetrack's only got 4 turns on it, right? Far cry from the 12 that we saw in the first half of the night. 2 of these are proper hairpins. You got 4 tabletop jumps, a massive drop-off jump after turn number 1 that leads into a rhythm section headed down and into turn number 2. It is a very different track fundamentally from the challenge that these drivers just went through.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing. They carved this into the side of a mountain. This track has so much elevation change, you know, some huge jumps. Really throws these trucks up in the air. You're going to see a ton of airtime, a lot of elevation changes. It's one of the most exciting tracks ever built for short course racing. You know, and these drivers, especially with the Pro 4s, this is a showcase of a Pro 4 here. You know, this shows what these trucks can do, the horsepower, the all-wheel drive. I mean, there's no better place to show, you know, the excitement of Pro 4 racing than you have here in Reno at Wild West Motorsports Park.
You know, Jim, as I look at the big ski jump getting ready as we're watching this one truck come down the front straightaway, the ski jump is as you get to the top of the hill here and you come back down. It's exciting to fly that truck, but you're not gaining speed. I like how some of these guys are just kind of rolling it, getting onto the ground and letting those 4 tires dig into the surface and drive you forward.
Yeah, there's a lot of different approaches, and I think here with qualifying, it's interesting too because they've got so much time here, as you saw Connor Berry. So maybe they're doing a lap where they're skying it, you know what I mean? And then maybe they're doing a lap where they're checking up, like you said, and then grabbing all that traction down at the bottom and trying to slingshot themselves into that next corner. So, you know, one of the things about, you know, single truck qualifying here, you know, and having 10 minutes, these guys are going to get a couple of different chances to drive this track a few different ways and see what works best for them.
Yeah, if you can scrub that jump and get those wheels back on the ground driving forward, that's where the speed is at.
It almost
I
looked
love
like,
that
guys,
Supercross analogy. Scrubbing it.
I just watching Connor Berry there, it almost looked like that he wasn't happy with the lap prior to the most recent one, and he really didn't attack turn 4. He went really wide on the entry, went to the wall, squared it up, and took a long run. It almost looked like he kind of accepted in this qualifying format where you have so many laps to do it, hey, that last lap wasn't great. I was going to point and shoot down that ski jump that we're talking about and build a ton of speed. So it almost looked like he kind of sacked the previous lap, knowing it wasn't going to be good, try to set him up for a really good start to the lap, which you could only do if you scrub the lap prior by doing that.
You know, and the funny thing here is we're talking about Connor Berry, and, you know, he's sitting 3rd in qualifying out of 22 trucks. And he's only a 10th off of the pole position, which is Cam Peterson right now. So, you know, he's doing things like that, and he's fighting for literally a 10th of a second, which to me is crazy. You know, it's come to that. This racing is so ridiculously close that you're having to wave off a lap and back it up and get a longer run just so you can try and put your truck, you know, up top in qualifying. I mean, to me, it's crazy how close these times are.
Well, that's the thing about the sim as well, is you can have legitimately unlimited practice time. That's why you hear so many of the real world pros, whether it be, you know, here in off-road racing, it could be in anything from NASCAR to IndyCar to, you know, off-road, you know, oval racing, late models and sprint cars and stuff like that. The fact that you'll actually have real world drivers use iRacing and use this sim as a tool to practice, because it's probably pretty expensive to drive all the equipment out to Sparks and to run 100 practice laps, right? You just don't get that opportunity. Whereas here on the sim, certainly where the sim pros, I think, will have the upper hand, is they can just jump on their computer any night, Ralph, hop into the seat and turn hundreds, if not thousands of laps. And that goes to Jim's point where the intervals are so ridiculously tight, is because they've kind of cleaned up these laps as best as you can possibly get on these single truck runs, that it's hard to find any more time out there.
Yeah, that's 100% true. These guys have really got this all figured out.
Look at this. The top three, all less than a tenth of a second right now, Jim.
Yeah, and I think one of the things leading to it, too, is, as you see Barry there scrubbing the wall. But, one of the things I think is leading to this, too, is in normal league racing, in iRacing, these guys are allowed to run open setups. And we know a guy like Cam Peterson, he's got some world record setups in his back pocket. Well, now everybody's running the same setup here. So the advantages you have for doing the work and putting in the time and developing a good setup for your truck with the World Cup, it goes away. Everybody's got a clean slate. They're running the exact same setup, which shows who's the fastest. Nobody's got, an ace in the hole or an ace up their sleeve with a better setup. Everybody's got the same one here. So we're really seeing who has the absolute best lines at any given track.
Yeah, you are the difference. There is nothing else out there to give you an advantage. And, there are some nuances, Jim, that I know that you're familiar with, being involved in this world of sim racing and some of the other stuff, as well as the one pro of as well racing on the sim, is you can set up your personal sim rig however you want. You want to race with VR goggles? Go for it. You want to race with triple wide monitors that kind of make a virtual cockpit around you at home? Feel free. Some drivers just need a wheel, a desk, and a monitor. I mean, everybody has their preferences in hardware and peripherals that can tailor their sim racing experience to exactly how they want it to be the most comfortable.
Yeah, well, and I think, one of my favorite ones, we'll have to pull a picture up and throw it on social media, was last year. Greg Biffle was on his yacht in a lawn chair with like a Walmart steering wheel and a laptop on his yacht, and he's racing in the World Cup. And we went to an onboard photo, and he's in his flip-flops, and I think all of us about, just lost it because it was so hilarious to watch Biffle race in that situation.
It's the only time I've ever seen a basic setup also be the most, I think, expensive setup we've ever seen when Greg was doing it from the boat. And I think that's going to be fun to watch as well as, getting some of the perspectives from these drivers, how they have set up their personal sim rigs at home to get themselves, into a place where they're comfortable and to optimize things as well. I mean, you can also be talking about drivers talking with one another. They may also be talking with members of their virtual team who may be watching this race as well, looking at lap times, giving you all those details that you really can't do when you're in the truck. Leave that kind of stuff to your crew around you and let the driver focus on the task at hand. So certainly the teams behind the scenes as well could be a big part. Even though it's virtual racing, you can have 3-4 different people on the radio with the driver at a time, and that can make it easier, Ralph. If your driver doesn't have to be looking at a different computer monitor for lap times and looking in the mirror, seeing what different lines people are doing, if you could just have somebody in your ear keeping you posted on all of that, really lets you focus on the task at hand.
You can, yeah. Some drivers just don't want to hear any of that. They just want to focus, deal with what's in front of them, and not worry about all the rest, right?
It all comes down to those preferences. We are doubled up, though, and getting set to go for the first Pro 4 race of the night. Qualifying has come and gone. Cam Peterson was best in qualifying. He will score 10 points towards the World Cup title. 8 points to second place Luke Cadup. 6 points to Connor Berry. 4 for Josh Edmondson, so he adds to his total, and Keaton Swain walks away with 2 points as well. So we go back to the heat race format that we saw earlier tonight with the Pro 2s. Nothing changes. It is a 10-minute race with an invert on the top 8, which means Peterson, his reward for being fastest and getting the 10 points, as he goes all the way down to the number 8 spot. He'll be on the outside of row number 4. Pace trucks getting out of the way. Crystal King going to start up front again. We'll see if the 278 truck can find success in the Pro 4s as we look for the big green egg, green flag. We are underway for Heat Race 1 in the Pro 4 trucks.
Look at that. Crystal King all the way to the bottom, protecting there.
Still pushing and shoving halfway down that backstretch chute there, but the 22 truck's in a very good position. Somebody missed the whole corner. That was Keaton Swain, who really risked it all, missed everybody and the corner. Swain going to drop several spots. It's King leading Proudfoot in second, and Josh Bilicki, somebody else who struggled in the Pro 2s, looking for some redemption, holding down third right now.
Yeah, and this corner right here, Evan, is a great one for somebody to make an aggressive move. It looks like everybody's going to get through there pretty smooth on this opening lap.
A little bit of space. Those top 4 trucks have been able to single file out a tad. The fight-in's going to be for 5th position on the back. Dave Bodio trying to get up to Cameron Peterson, but Connor Berry trying to push his way through on the inside. Berry with the bump and run moves the 16 truck, and Berry now into P6.
Yeah, Barry into P6, Peterson up there in the 5th. But I gotta say, Crystal King there, she's getting a lot of pressure from Proudfoot. We know he knows how to win, and she's been able to hold her own. I'm really impressed with this girl right now through the first lap and a half here.
Brandon Proudfoot, we talked about some of the success that he's had. Took home a race win back in 2020 at Long Beach in the Pro 2s. Running to improve on a World Cup finish of 8th last year and 8th in 2020. So trying to take that next step. You're on board with Proudfoot, firing off it into 1. King goes wide. The door is open. He doesn't touch, though, and therefore King's able to get the run back off of turn number 1. This will give her the inside positioning for yet again another hairpin for turn number 2. And she'll be able to slide up in front and take that line away. So Proudfoot searching for where to make the move, and therefore a real aggressive drive into 3, moving her out of the way. They are nose to nose now for the race lead.
Yeah, she's got the drive up on the outside into this corner. This is going to be a pretty tight corner. It looks like Proudfoot's going to take the lead, but with the angle, she might be able to pick up some speed coming down the front stretch. Nope, looks like she lost it there, lost some momentum, went too far to the inside. Proudfoot going to seal the deal.
She tried it there, Alf. You saw her brake before the turn. She tried to cut under Proudfoot, but she kind of used the berm on the inside as a double jump there and went from one side of the berm to the other, just didn't carry the speed. You saw the thinking there. Tried to kind of catch Proudfoot up by driving it too deep into the corner, but it didn't play through, and now the 22 truck clearly in front for the top spot as we watch the fight for third between Bilicki and Peterson.
Well, what Crystal has to do is find her rhythm again. Get settled down, get the rhythm going, get back into her mindset, and get focused, and get back to the front.
She is trying to get herself back locked in, and looks like she's got her feet under herself comfortably in second. Here comes Peterson. What a slide, as he will take away third with a beautiful crossover move on the 177 to Josh Bilicki. Bilicki now under fire with Connor Berry coming up behind in the number 4 spot. He'll slide on the bottom, and 28 to Berry trying to be very aggressive. Josh Bilicki holds, and Bilicki's still going to have a little bit of the bottom there, but I don't know if it's going to be enough for Berry to take the spot away. I mean, these drivers are certainly trying to be patient, but I mean, when you're on somebody's inside, it's almost like they can't help each other, and there it is. The 177 took a swipe at Connor Berry, but it was too late. Berry got the spot. He's to P4.
Yeah, and Proudfoot almost stretching out a second lead at this point, but man, look at that. Bilicki just continuing to put some pressure on Berry. Berry, one of the best in the business, but man, he's got his hand full right now.
Now, the lap counter is going to be different on time here, of course, than what we saw at Bark River. We mentioned in those heats we could get about 8 laps in. Well, this track is significantly shorter as far as there's a lot less corners that'll slow these trucks down. It's a high-speed straight, slow corner, high-speed straight again with a couple of ramps, tabletops, and jumps mixing in there as well. So the lap times are quicker. We're probably going to get closer to about, I would say, 12, if not 13 laps in, when we only got 8 laps in at a heat race earlier tonight. So more opportunities for drivers to pick up some spots, but it looks like there's enough space back in the pack that up front is where all the action is. Maybe Brandon Proudfoot thought when he went to the race lead, Ralph, he was going to be able to pull away. But Crystal King, you talked about her getting back into rhythm. We're on board with her now in second. She is locked back in and has been faster than the 22 truck the last couple of laps. A little bit of an aggressive move there. Lost some time, but she's definitely keeping Proudfoot honest in second.
She did exactly what she needed to do. She didn't get too rattled. She knew she'd lost her rhythm. She settled down, found her groove, and she's quick. We saw her quick in the Pro 2. She's very quick in the Pro 4. And Proudfoot's got everything he can do to keep her behind him.
And the key is going to be to not have that major mistake. Again, she was running up front in that Pro 2, as you alluded to before she ended up with an incident, and it just really derailed her whole night. Was able to claw for a 16th place finish in that Pro 2 main event, but certainly improving on that here tonight. Not that far behind her is that ever-familiar number 48 of Cam Peterson. Started 8th, has driven his way to 3rd. He's definitely a threat to crack the top 2 before the night is done. We talked about Connor Berry. He's not that far behind as well in the number 4 spot, and Josh Bilicki in 5th with a bit of side-by-side action further on down the running order with Dave Bodio. Josh Fox, Keaton Swain, all drivers fighting behind this group up here for 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, Peterson just continued to pick his way. Oh, look, Bilicki getting up on the K-rail there. But, Peterson continued to just pick his way and sit back and be very, very patient. I mean, the patience Cam Peterson showing is tremendous out here today as we get a glimpse there. That's 77. Bilicki is just all over the place. It's wild to watch this guy.
Yeah, I don't know if it's even controlled chaos. I think he's just having a lot of fun and giving it about 110% every single time through. Opened up the door. That was Josh Fox trying to slide in underneath. Wasn't able to do so, so Bilicki defends for the time being. Still in the number 6 spot. And there's a bit of helping hands from behind. So maybe Fox and Swain getting a bit impatient with some of the shenanigans of Josh Bilicki. It may be hard to predict what Bilicki's doing because his line's pretty much different every single time around. He's just searching, right? I mean, Ralph, he's still soaking this up, trying to learn. It's his first eShort course event. He is learning. Very different from somebody like a Cam Peterson, like a Josh Edmondson, who have all of these movements down to very specific and precise movements that we talked about earlier. It's the opposite for Bilicki. He's learning, and that unpredictability is making it tough for Fox behind him to set up for a pass.
Well, that's where this Pro 4 allows you to be extremely aggressive, and that four-wheel drive will allow you to save what could have been a big problem. You can drive it in really deep, and that four-wheel drive will get you back out.
Less than 2 minutes to go. A three-way fight for second position is on up the road. Crystal King is under fire by the 48 of Cam Peterson. Driving up the bottom. They'll race down. Same straight here that the battle behind them is on to turn number 4. But the inside positioning is going to be too much to shake off. And Cam Peterson now up to second. Fighting for third now. Barry under King. King's going to have the outside as they go off into turn number 1. Will she try to go for the crossover? Yes, she does, but gets a little bit too much bumper. Couldn't get all the way inside of Connor Berry. And now Barry also jumps up to take away third.
Yeah, Barry just slamming the door on Crystal King. You got to give this girl a lot of credit, though. I mean, she is definitely banging doors with some of the best in eShort course right now and holding her own. Tremendous effort there, continuing to run in 4th place. As you know, the guy taking advantage of all that bumping and banging for the 2nd spot, Brandon Proudfoot out front with a nice about a 2-second gap for Cam Peterson.
You think that he owes Cam Peterson something because before Cam Peterson and Connor Berry arrived on the scene, Crystal King was giving him the business. I mean, she was all over Proudfoot, challenging for the race lead, and then once those trucks behind her caught her and she had to play a little bit more defense, that opened up the door here, Ralph, for Brandon to pull away, and he's some 1.7 seconds up the road, looking on what may be the final couple of corners.
A top 5 is great for Crystal, but I think she's going to be frustrated because she's going to know she had a top 3 here in this heat.
To walk away with some points. If she holds the number 4 spot now, it'll be 12 points for her championship hopes. Of course, up the road, Proudfoot hoping to secure a max of 25. Checkered flag in the air. Final time down the hill at a 4. And Brandon Proudfoot, with a very impressive heat race, leads 10 of the 12 laps that get in on the books, and he will get himself 25 points towards the title. This is big. I mean, we talk about Edmondson getting the 50 in the Pro 2 main, but let's not forget that Brandon Proudfoot, Jim, finished second in that one, scored 40 for himself. He's got 25 now in a Pro 4 heat race and is in a very good position to be in the World Cup title contention by the time we get to this feature.
Yeah, well, and hey, it's not like Brandon Proudfoot's some big secret. Obviously, he's won a lot of short course races before. Kind of been a pavement specialist, but man, we're seeing him hold his own here in the dirt. And, the impressive part to me is both Pro 2 and Pro 4. He's shown that he's got the speed in both of them. We've got that main event yet to go, and I got to say, he's going to be a player. We talked about Edmondson, talked about Peterson, we've talked about Barry. Brandon Proudfoot, man, I got to tell you, my money may be on him come this main event.
I think he's going to put pressure on Edmondson here, right? I mean, the heat races aren't the end-all, be-all for actual starting position for the feature, but in terms of the points on the line, Brandon Proudfoot just laid the gauntlet here. Got max points in the heat and is putting pressure on Edmondson to respond in the second one. Of course, Proudfoot gets the win by 1.6 seconds over Cam Peterson in second. Connor Berry was third, Crystal King was fourth, and Dave Bodio was fifth. Balicki, Fox, Swain, Hernquist, and Lawrence the top 10, with Alfredo in 11th and Martin in the number 12 spot. That is the finishing position for Pro 4 heat race number 1. Now, heat race number 2 is already gridded up, but again, based on a top 8 invert. Elliott Watson, again, the beneficiary. The number 3 will start on the inside of row number 1, alongside with the 7 Bobby Rafferty. Connor Parise starts third in this one, alongside Trenton Briley. Christopher Plumley's 5th, and Jarrett Brooks is 6th. Then, your Pro 2 feature winner, Josh Edmondson, starts in 7th, alongside great speed at a Luke Cadup earlier tonight. He'll be the last car on the invert to be in position number 8. He's ahead of Reynolds and Guest 9 and 10, and Ryan Vargas hoping to pick up some here in the Pro 4 half of the program, and he will start in 11th position. So we saw 12 laps get completed in the first heat. We're expecting some similar pace. What happens in terms of the World Cup points after this one? Pace truck set sail as we come for the big green egg, green flag. We are racing in Pro 4 heat race number 2. It's a dead heat to turn 1.
And it looks like Watson all the way to the bottom.
Oh, they're going to stack up in the back.
That was Edmondson. Josh Edmondson is the truck that got turned around after he made contact with several trucks behind, and he is now in dead last in the spin.
That was Jarrett Brooks there. Look, another one. He went on his wheels, was trying to drive out of it, back up on his wheels. Gloves are off here at Wild West Motorsports Park. Wow.
Well, they're giving you what you want now, Jim.
That was 2 barrel rolls. And I don't think the driver who flipped the first time lost. There's another one.
That's Briley there.
That is a full send into the corner for Briley. And again, somehow loses nothing.
He was up against the K-rail there off the jump, doing a grind. Looked like something straight out of the X Games. Wow, this is a wild heat race here.
And for you, Ralph, this is what we're used to seeing in eShort course. This guy's just going absolutely full bonsai mode into the corner.
Well, that's been a spectacular start for sure. No reason to think the rest of it's going to be any more calm.
Oh, yeah, they're fired up now. Blood's pumping. They're not going to settle down through the second half of this one. Through all of the chaos is Bobby Rafferty. I mean, that's him already coming out of the shot. He is 2.5 seconds ahead of second on back. So Bobby Rafferty ahead of the chaos. Really the big winner in all of this, because there's some fast trucks that would love to catch him. Parise, Cadup, but of course, not to get lost at all of the barrel rolling was the issue that Josh Edmondson had, Jim. I think Edmondson's going to have speed in the main event. That's not a worry of mine. But again, we saw the challenge. Oh, and he's going to punt a driver out of the way. So Edmondson, feeling the pressure, absolutely moves Reynolds, who tumbles in turn 1. I mean, Edmondson doesn't really care about the spot as another truck is up and over. It's Briley for the 19th time in this heat race on his lid. But what Edmondson needs is points. So he needs to make up spots that he lost with that lap 1 spin.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're seeing. He knows the pressure's on. He knows he was in the driver's seat to win this World Cup, and this one heat race just started bad for him, and he is completely on fire right now, just sending it. He knows back's up against the wall. It's go time. He's looking for every last point he can get. And I got to tell you, if I see Josh Edmondson in my rearview mirror, I think I might be moving over a bit because I don't want to deal with him right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's no need for him to be patient at this point, right? He's got to be aggressive.
What I'm not sure, Ralph, this happens if we don't see that heat race win just previous to this by Proudfoot, right? Proudfoot only scored 10 less points than Edmondson did by finishing second to him in the Pro 2 feature. If he doesn't win that heat, I don't know if there's as much, sense of urgency here for Josh Edmondson, but I think that successful start to this Pro 4 part of the night for Proudfoot is really pushing Edmondson, knowing that if I don't get at least 15 points out of this one, that means I got to finish in the top 3. My gap that I got from winning the Pro 2 feature is erased. Just like that, Edmondson's made up some spots, but it's only good enough for P6 right now. Looks like Christopher Plumley may be the next victim. We'll see what Edmondson can do, but Edmondson right now, net loss in the points if he can't somehow scrap to a top 3.
Yeah, and he's closing here, so he's going to have Plumley in his sights all lined up and teed up on any one of these corners.
And I think this story here is case in point. You got a guy like Edmondson who dominated the Pro 2 segment of the tonight, and now we're into the Pro 4s, and he's finding a little struggling here in the heat race. And I think that's why it's so ridiculously hard to win a World Cup, because you have to be so clean and so good and so consistent over so many different tracks and so many different disciplines of racing with the Pro 2 and the Pro 4s. It's really hard to bring it all home and have a really good night where you can string together enough points to be crowned, World Cup champion at the end of the evening.
He's back up to 5th, so he continues to chip away, but he's burned out about a half of this first heat race. 6 laps down, 6 laps to go this next time by. Now he has a gap that he's going to have to work on, right? Most of the passes that he's made to this point on his road back up through the field has been passes. He got around a truck, the next guy's a truck length up the road, right? It's been about executing passes. He has a bit of a buffer zone here, Ralph, where he's about 1.8, 1.9 seconds behind Luke Cadup, that next truck up the road. Luke is not an easy guy to outrun on pace, and Edmondson's going to have to change from attack mode here to kind of rein it in and be concise if he wants to make up time, because catching someone very different than kind of muscling your way through somebody you're fighting with.
Well, he's got to get smooth again, right? He's got to smooth out the rough edges and not just throw the truck around. If he can do that, he can catch these guys, and then he'll have 3 trucks here that he can size up, tee up, and get around aggressively again and pick them off pretty quick and get those big points.
And this fight here may help him because they are fighting for positions 2, 3, and 4. It's still Bobby Rafferty leading, but Elliott Watson is in second, and Connor Parise doing everything in his power to make a pass. The 11 truck has tried time and time again, unable to do so. Luke Cadup just there, the 3rd truck. That's the number 77 with the blue and red splash on the door panel. So if this fight for second on the back continues, they're all going to slow each other down. And all that's going to do is invite Edmondson to close, and that's exactly what's happening right now.
Yeah, looking at that, we're on board there with Up just completely trying to hunt down Parise and Watson there. And, this guy, he's won a lot of races in eShort course before. It's going to be kind of really interesting to see, his attack here and how he approaches things, the precision of it. So you see him hug the inside there as we get a great look as you come down here at Wild West Motorsports Park, down the front stretch of these huge jumps as you climb that hill towards the ski jump.
Jim, I think the best thing about Sim short course racing is the roost does not hurt.
Yeah, the virtual tear-offs are unlimited, right?
Yeah, you see those rocks and dirt clods getting kicked up that in real life would be painful, but here not so much. But you can see Edmondson has caught these guys now, so now he can get back. Oh, and that's exactly what he needs right there. He can get back into aggressive mode now and try to, shove his way past.
There was a little bit of frustration from Parise there, who gave a bit of a shot to Watson. And you're right, Josh Edmondson is there and within striking distance of Luke Cadup with about 3 laps to go in heat race number 2. The last several times around, Luke Cadup has been the second fastest truck on the track. In fact, last time, fastest of them all. So he smoothed things out. He closed the gap. Those elbows may need to come back up. There he is. He is on Luke Cadup. Shoves Cadup up the road into the 11 truck. And it is a full-on 4-truck battle for second all the way through 5th.
Yeah, and it looks like I'm, getting a glimpse. Things reset there, and it looks like Edmondson about 0.4 of a second faster than our leader Bobby Rafferty the last time by. So Edmondson, obviously the fast man on track here, but he's getting into this traffic, and these guys, they can get really, really wide. It's going to be really hard for Edmondson to get around these veterans that are in front of him.
Jim, there's a great spot right here at the top of the hill. He can cut it and drive it straight to the inside and use them to help him turn. See that right in there? If he can pull that, he might be able to make that pass stick.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting. Cadup's going to have the inside into this big hairpin corner there. And it looks like he's going to push Edmondson out. Edmondson might be able to carry the momentum around and slingshot by and get to the inside, but he's not going to have enough.
Yeah, you really needed to stay to the bottom there, but credit to Luke Cadup, who sealed him off and didn't allow the 58 truck to get back underneath him there in turn number 3. Less than a minute on the clock. The white flag going to be in the air this time by. One more trip around Wild West in heat race 2. Rafferty's still in front. Watson and Parise fighting for second. Cadup and Edmondson are fighting for 4th and 5th.
Evan, he's got to get the drive right here up the hill to use that inside line. It's just not close enough.
Same place he tried it last lap, this time unsuccessful. And because he went for that move, Jim, if he got to him, it would have worked. Because it was a swing and a miss, he lost some time there to Cadup. Although up the road, Watson and Parise are side by side, and this may bunch them all up as Parise is on the inside. He'll take away second from the 3 of Watson.
Yeah, and look at that, Parise getting a ton of pressure as we see Rafferty out front taking going to take the W here. Just in a world of his own, 5 seconds ahead of everybody else, watching all the chaos and carnage behind him. As we've got the rest of the field racing to that checkered flag, looking for every last point they can get.
In a late pass, Christopher Plumlee will finish 4th in this race. There was contact in the last corner between Edmondson and Cadup that spun the 77 truck around, and while Edmondson was recovering, Plumlee passed both of them. So in the end, Bobby Rafferty is perfect. He leads all 12 laps and wins race number 2 for the Pro 4 trucks. Connor Parise in second, able to shake Elliott Watson on the final lap of that one. Watson comes home in 3rd, but it is a surprise P4 for Christopher Plumlee. Edmondson only good enough for 5th position. That'll net him 10 points. But remember, heat race 1 winner Brandon Proudfoot scored 25. That erases the gap that we saw Edmondson build by winning the Pro 2 feature. And I'd say they're basically in a deadlock in the points for this World Cup, headed into a Pro 4 feature. I mean, we just had to know that it wasn't going to be so simple, Jim. Some drama has developed on the Pro 4 side of the afternoon, and all of a sudden, we got a title fight on our hands.
Yeah, and that's the exciting part of this. It's a showdown in Reno. It all comes down to that last main event. We're going to see who's going to be able to take this thing. I think this is the exciting thing. It all builds to this moment. We've got all these points, and at this point, points are pretty much out the window. It's a winner-take-all situation here with a main event yet to come. It's got me excited. I think gloves are going to be off. I think you're going to see Josh Edmondson absolutely send it in this main event.
Well, based on the invert, let's let you know where those 2 big names will start. Brandon Proudfoot will start this race in 8th position. That's based on the invert. Josh Edmondson is going to be directly behind him in 10th. So look for those drivers to be big in the battle for the title fight. but as 23 trucks line up, we are ready to go racing for the Pro 4 main event. Pace truck set sail. We come to the big green egg, green flag, and we say, let's go racing from Wild West. Underway, up the hill to turn 1. It's Chris Plumley in an early race lead.
Looks like Crystal King getting pushed all the way to the outside, going to drop back to third or fourth spot. Elliott Watson drawn even with her as we've got Connor Berry in the second spot. He's going to be dangerous if Connor Berry gets out front. He's still got a shot at this World Cup overall victory as well, and I think he might actually be in the best position right now out of the entire field to possibly take this thing home.
It looks like the give is gone, and it is all take. I mean, we were talking about how, not necessarily polite, but how clean that Pro 2 feature was. And already, Ralph, these hairpin corners at Wild West are leading to so many opportunities for contact. Look at this. 4 trucks going to swing way wide. It's like a wave effect. 2 trucks get together. It pushes everybody else out wide. We're 4 wide on the front straight here. I mean, they just cannot get away from each other.
Yeah, with this huge field like this is exactly what we expected and were hoping for. And boy, Wild West is delivering.
And big ups for Josh Edmondson. He has a great start to this race, Jim. He has driven his way to 5th. Brandon Proudfoot has struggled and is way down in 17th. He is in this hornet's nest. So just as things started to go Proudfoot's way, a disastrous start to this feature for the 22 truck.
You know, and the ones I'm looking for, you know, at it, they picked their way through that chaos early and saw Edmondson and Peterson both make some big moves there to move into the 5th and the 6th spot. So they're looking pretty as this 15-minute feature, you know, starts to get rolling here. But for them to already pick their way through the field up to 5th and 6th, I think they're going to have a real good shot here to push over the next few laps and possibly make a run of things.
Well, nobody knows all these personalities better than Tiffany Stone down trackside, our trackside reporter. And Tiffany, this is the bumping and beating and banging that we were expecting to see. And, you know, we talk about, yeah, some of these guys are here to have a good time. But at this point, it looks like they're all driving angry.
Exactly, and what we're starting to see, especially with the track here at Wild Horse, is that the ruts are starting to get a little bit bigger, especially around the hairpin. But showcasing with Plumley right now and what he did in Heat 2, it's all about being calm, collective, capitalizing on other people's mistakes, which we saw there. And right now, especially in this race, it's going to be able to, you know, be calculated, figure out when somebody's going to be messing. You know, if somebody's taking one line, you're going to want to take a different line, and that's what we've been seeing so far in the first few laps.
This trio's fighting for 3rd position on the back, but up the road, side by side for the race lead. Connor Berry with a nice slide underneath Plumley. With the 36 truck stays in front. There they are, ahead of the trio for 3rd. This battle's between Parise, Watson, and Peterson. They also refuse to get off of one another, but those top 2 have opened up an early 2.5-second advantage just by staying out of the chaos early. Another look to the inside for Berry. In second, it's Watson driving up the inside of Parise. They beat and bang. Here's the top 2 racing off to turn number 1. An absolute dead heat. The inside, though, goes to Berry. Can he use that as an advantage? Yes, he does. Slides up and clear for the race lead. Connor Berry in control for the moment at lap 5.
You know, with these hairpins like this, you got to be able to rotate that truck. And Berry's doing a really good job of getting that truck to turn quick and drive off the corner. Our leader in that purple, blue, and black 28.
He's very methodical about it, and you saw with the pass for the race lead there. There was no advantage, Jim, to either of them into one, but he set him up to push wide off the turn and absolutely sealed off the truck behind. And this battle for 3rd continues to grow. Let's add Luke Canup to the mix. Let's also add Josh Edmondson. So a 5-way battle for 3rd position on back. And Cameron Peterson, up 3 positions, finds himself ahead of it for the moment. Watch that 58 of Edmondson in contention for the World Cup title, but he'll get muscled out by Watson, who makes a move.
Yeah, and Watson.
He's got to be so frustrated, Jim. Edmondson in that 58. Every time he tries to make a move, it just backfires on him.
He's had a rough go in the Pro 4s, both in the heat race and in in this feature race here, to cap things off. And he's had to earn every single spot he's got. Nothing's come easy for him this race or in the heat race. Man, Josh Edmondson at this point, he's got to be real frustrated, but he continues to put together some amazing lap times. I mean, he's sitting in 5th. He's definitely not out of it with a little less than 10 minutes to go.
He's in a good spot. He's in a points paying position. 5th, if he can hold it, would net him 25. That still leads 25 points difference to what you get for winning this, and could bring another driver into that World Cup title conversation that was dominated largely by Proudfoot and Edmondson entering this Pro 4 feature. Things are settling down ahead of this duo, and Edmondson is doing his very best to hold off Canup, but it feels like Josh is on the back foot, right? Lost the battle for 4th. Canup's all over him now. You got Watson and Rafferty there. I mean, nobody cares what he's fighting for. They all just see more points on the line. And Canup's going to bring it around the bottom there and try to get alongside him as that fight for 5th continues. Up the road, of course, on cruise control is Connor Berry. Plumlee's keeping him honest, but the gap is slowly growing between those trucks in 1st and 2nd.
Connor Berry, you want to talk about a guy hitting his mark. I'm watching his lines through this, and I mean, he's not opening any doors. He's not making any mistakes. He's doing exactly what he needs to do, running ridiculously clean and protecting his lines. And I got to tell you, this kid, he's putting a race together here that definitely, I think, is going to put him in the conversation for the overall victory here in the World Cup.
And it changes lap by lap. I couldn't tell you who's leading as they run right now, but certainly Connor Berry is doing what he needs to do. His last lap was a 49.988. This time by, he goes even faster, a 49.892. Only other driver putting those speeds down is Cam Peterson in 3rd, who just put down a 4.9877. So those gaps are going to help. Again, in the past, we have seen in these eShort course events midway feature competition cautions where we've grouped everybody back up, and it's allowed drivers who lost off in the first half to make up for that lost ground. You're not getting that here. Each shot you take, like that one right there between Crystal King and Trenton Briley, it's going to hurt you. You're not getting those tenths of a second back every time you door slam somebody, and Crystal King is fighting hard, has had a good truck tonight, has deserved better than the results she's had so far, and really wants this top 10. Is not going to go down without a fight, but Keaton Swain's right there as well. Bit of a wide corner for Trenton Briley. He'll be the one who falls to P11.
Yeah, Briley, he's had a go, bumper cars early on, and, he's trying to fight back into that top 10 position here. Another one along with Crystal King, who have probably raced a little bit better than their results show, but, that's what's brutal about eShort course. Sometimes some of the fastest drivers out on track don't necessarily convert it to a win.
Just watching this mid-pack battle. Again, this is for about 9th on back if you're going based on that 3 of Watson. We're looking at 8th position on back, which is more than 10 seconds of difference. You can see the intervals on the left-hand side of your screen. 1st and 3rd are further apart than 8th position through 13th. I mean, this mid-pack is by far the tightest group on the track right now. And again, if you're in the top 20, you're getting points. So all these drivers are going to get something. But now you're fighting for 1-point intervals if you get into the teens, right? You're fighting for a difference between 8 or 7 points, 7 or 6 points. If you can get up into the top 10, you can go from 16 to 18, 18 to 20, 20 to 25. Those points margins get more per position the higher up in the running order you get. And that's why these drivers aren't going to be content with just riding. Look at Crystal King. Gets passed up there by Elliott Watson, but she fights right back. Trying to get on the bottom. Has the position. And then we get down to that tricky turn 4 hairpin. They're leaning on each other. And both of them are going to go into the tire. And a flip for Crystal King. She's on her lid. Watson stuck on the K-rail. And neither of them come out winners.
Watson's truck's not been handling for the last couple of laps. He's been fighting every corner, and she was in the perfect position to take advantage of it. He just lost in that corner, went up on the K-rail, and it captured both of them.
Yeah, they just got stuck together, Jim, as she was trying to get on his inside. And as Ralph mentioned, they just could not get off each other. Watson got that K-rail on the inside. She popped into that and kind of drove over it, flipped. She at least came back down on all four tires. Watson was hung up for quite some time and is way down now in 17th.
Yeah, Elliott Watson's actually been really, really quick all evening long, through the Pro 2s and the Pro 4s. It just, the only luck he's had is bad luck, it seems like, tonight. Crystal King, another one, this girl, you got to give her a lot of credit. She has been very, very strong. I think, the takeaway from this event, regardless of what her overall result is, she's here to play, and I think we definitely haven't seen the last of Crystal King.
Well, she's joking over the radio now. She's fighting with Trey Hernquist back there and joking that he needs to back it down because they're fighting for P last right now. So Trey wants that extra spot. I think she's probably, again, a little bit defeated knowing that she has a better truck than where she is right now in 13th, but just has not been able to get away from some of those moments in this race. Look at this group now. Connor Parise sits in the number 4 spot. He's got Josh Edmondson on him. That's the 58 truck. Third truck in this group is Luke Cadup, and then even further on down the road is Bobby Rafferty. This is some of the best stuff in the field right now, but one driver that we don't see that was fighting with these trucks about 5 laps ago, Cam Peterson. He has been able to pull away from this group right here and has caught up to Christopher Plumley. Plumley has been pretty uncontested in second since Connor Berry went to the race lead. That's no more, because Cam Peterson is within about a half a second of Plumley in a fight for second, and here they are going off the turn 4. You can see he's there, and a huge mistake for Plumley, who caught that last rut there a little bit, last whoop, and went a little bit deep into 4. I thought that was going to open up the door for Peterson, but a very good recovery for Christopher Plumley.
And that's one of the things. This course is starting to go away, and a 15-minute feature is very long on this track, and, starting to rut up. It's starting to get, a lot of grooves going on in it. And, these drivers are going to have to change up their line. We're going to see how they adapt with a couple laps left. Biggest thing here is Cam Peterson. He knows time is of the essence. He's only, he's only got a couple of laps left to try and make a move. And, he's only about a second faster than Connor Berry in the lead, and he sits a few seconds back. So even if it gets around Plumley without a big mistake from Berry, I don't know that Cam Peterson's going to have enough to catch him.
He's running out of time, and I'll go back to you, Tiffany, on this one. You mentioned it at the start of the night. We'd see that blue groove. Look at it all there, that shine you can see on this look as they come off of 4. I mean, to Jim's point, this track is really falling apart, so it looks like these guys are all out of control. That may be true for some of them, but others, these trucks just aren't driving as good as they were because this track is really slicked off. You can see Plumley way out into the dirty stuff there, trying to get away from the blue groove, just looking for grip anywhere, and it'll cost him a spot because Cam Peterson has P2. So now the question is, can Cam Peterson make up the 4.7 seconds that he needs? He's only going to have about 2 laps to do it. So I'm with you. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen unless Connor Berry has a major mistake. And the good news for Connor Berry, Ralph, is there's no trucks in front of him, really. Connor Berry's got a lot of clean racetrack that he's looking up to. I don't think you got to be worried about somebody flipping over in front of you, spin it out in front of you. Connor Berry in a very good spot here to just ride this one out, same way we saw him do it earlier tonight.
Yeah, he's been very good at finding his rhythm, finding his line, putting the truck right where he needs it to be, and being smooth. And you can see, look at the blue groove through there, and you know that's slick, and he's getting great drive off the corner.
He continues to find the right place to put it in. Look at this shot. No one in front. There's second place. About a half a straightaway down the road. There is more fighting, though, aside from just the top 3. This is the battle for 4th on back. Josh Edmondson, the lead truck in this group. That second truck, the white one of Luke Cadup, is 5th. You also got the 11 of Connor Parise, Bobby Rafferty, Jarrett Brooks, all lined up. But they're only going to have about 1 more lap to make it happen.
Yeah, 1 more to go. Edmondson feeling the pressure. I don't know if this run is going to give him enough points to factor into this championship with Berry and Peterson running 1 and 2 and the points they've been able to put together. I don't know how this points is shaken up, but I think it's going to end up being a tight one with Barry and Peterson here at the finish.
It certainly will be. Can somebody else grab some extra spots here? Looks like Edmondson successfully playing defense. He came into this Pro 4 part of the afternoon in the lead in the points. Will that hold? Because some 11 seconds up the road is Connor Berry, fourth in the Pro 2s, but victorious in the Pro 4s. Berry wins the feature at Wild West. Peterson is second, Plumley's third. Here's the dash for fourth as Edmondson hangs on. Luke Canup behind, tops off the top five. And now we wait for word from race control because there are several drivers who may have just secured themselves the World Cup title.
This is where the drama builds, but man, you got to say, what an amazing event. Very clean driving throughout the night. Just an awesome set of skills these top drivers have. And I got to say, it's just been wild to see how this event has progressed over the last couple of years, Evan. I mean, we saw this, a couple of years ago, and it was pretty wild in that very first World Cup. And the driving has got better and better and so much closer. And really, what a showcase of sim racing and the iRacing platform tonight.
And race control just now letting the drivers know that they are double checking the math. So we'll await until that is official. But it looks like Connor Berry with a race win in the Pro 4 feature. I mentioned the fourth place finish earlier tonight may have just done enough. As that math tabulates, I'll go back to you, Ralph, on this one. Adding the esports to your repertoire on motorsports coverage, and we've been so excited to have you with us here tonight for this 2022 General Tire eShort Course World Cup. This second part of the night in the Pro 4s was definitely a different atmosphere, partly due to the trucks, I think partly as well due to the fact that we changed to a very different style of track in Wild West, because that feature was non-stop action top to bottom.
It sure was, and we saw ultimately what we thought we would with the fixed setup in both classes tonight, that the driver would make the difference. And Barry did that here, especially in this final Pro 4 race. He drove a perfect race, did everything he had to do. He knew he was fourth coming out of that Pro 2 race. He needed to win this one, and he got it done.
He led the final 14 laps and ahead of a tie for second position in the points with Peterson and Edmondson. It sounds like Connor Berry has netted himself 132 points and has captured the title of the 2022 General Tire eShort Course World Cup, fueled by Fistful, a Bourbon champion. Connor Berry walking it off, Jim, in dramatic fashion here in the Pro 4s.
What a way to seal the deal by coming home with a win. Man, this young kid has been tremendous. I've watched him the last couple of years, become one of the top, e-short course drivers in the world. The crazy thing is he's one of our real world racers. He races a Pro Light in real world short course. He also races some UTVs. So, we talked about the crossover drivers, and here's a guy at the top of his game in the virtual world and at the top of his game in the real world as well. I mean, that's really tough to do.
Aside from one outlier when he finished in the 20s at Long Beach, this is a guy who has finished top 5 in every major eShort course event that we've seen. A lot of third place finishes, a couple of fourths, a fifth and a sixth sprinkled in there. I mean, Connor Berry has been a model of consistency. But when he was behind, Ralph, to your point, knowing that he had to make up a little bit, he was able to get that much more aggressive attack. He got through the chaotic start when those other two drivers that we talked about with Edmondson, and then, of course, the rough end for the likes of Proudfoot and others could not survive the start. Connor Berry played his cards right, and then once he got out in front, he made sure it was a no doubt about it. He ends up driving away to a 5.2 second win. I mean, Connor Berry may have put in the best performance we've seen out of him when it mattered the most.
Well, and you want to do that when you have something like the World Cup on the line, right? We knew there was going to be a lot of challenges here tonight with the adrenaline and guys being super aggressive. He was very smooth and consistent in the Pro 2 race when he needed to be. And then when he knew he had to step it up in Pro 4, he delivered. Boy, what more can you ask for from a champion than that?
And we'll go back down trackside one final time to Tiffany Stone. Tiffany, another exciting night of eShort course action and, getting our insights trackside with our drivers tonight as well. Just wanted to give you a chance to give your thoughts because you were watching all that from right down where all it was happening. And Connor Berry certainly impressed us tonight. He's somebody else who we've all seen doing these for the last 3 years, continue to improve and improve. And I think he's now up there as one of the very best. Not that it was ever a question, but certainly with a performance like this is certainly a notable one.
No, you're exactly right. And like you were saying, a lot of top 5 throughout the last 3 years, a little bit of 4, 5, 6 here, but it's showcasing what it is. And, anybody who's in motorsports always have heard in order to finish first you must finish. And that's exactly kind of what he did. He drove his style. He drove the way he wanted to drive. He didn't let anybody bully him. Obviously, there was a lot of carnage. And when you're out there in front and you're being hunted, you're being hunted. Every little mistake that you make, somebody else can capitalize on. Yet Connor Berry literally took the time. He drove his own race and he came out victorious. So it's really good to be able to see this guy be able to, do what he's done the last 3 years and really put his name in the eShort course world.
And Jim, I'll go back to you on this one final time before we say goodnight tonight from virtual Wild West Motorsports Park. This is just the start to the 2022 eShort course calendar, but man, what a way to get it underway, right? Always excited when this World Cup comes back around now for the 3rd straight year. We've been able to bring it to everybody here on iRacing Live, and what a dramatic ending to this one. But I have learned very quickly. I learned in 2020 when we first got into all of this and this took off as the premier off-road racing series in the sim world that we're always going to be entertained on an eShort course night. And I think it's great to see those other drivers who have won these events be in the conversation, but really happy to see Connor Berry get that breakthrough.
Yeah, obviously it was a breakthrough. I know everybody's known he's quick. He's won a lot of races in some of the league racing, things like that. But, this is a marquee event. This is a big win. This puts him on the map as one of the top eShort course drivers in the world. Not that he wasn't before, but this just solidifies it. Everybody knows now, hey, this kid's here to play. And really impressed with his driving, the way he kept it together. Had a lot of pressure throughout the night, was able to keep it all under control. And I got to tell you, he's going to be a player for years to come in the sim racing world.
And he's just getting started because he's won the World Cup. He's already looking forward to the rest of the Triple Crown here in 2022. Until next time, though, that is it here for us tonight from virtual Bark River. And now, of course, closing things off here tonight virtually from Sparks, Nevada. So on behalf of our entire team behind the scenes at iRacing, for our partners at General Tire, Fistful of Bourbon, Big Green Egg, and everybody else who made tonight's action possible, and for your broadcast team tonight. For Tiffany Stone down trackside, for Ralph Shaheen, Jim Beaver, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Connor Berry, the 2022 General Tire eShort